Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me over there is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Autos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. Let's go.
We're back.
And yes, we are not only back, but we are back to talk about other topics that a lot of people don't talk about. So
yeah, we're trying to mix it up a little bit.
We're keeping the train going here. Mm-hmm. We're keeping the NFL, news that is swirling about. I know that's not crazy amount of news, but we are going to touch on a few things that that a lot of people are just kind of overlooking, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so, too.
So if you're new to the show, could you do us this huge favor? Please help us out. It really does help us at YouTube with the algorithm, kind of boost us in the community and show us up. Go over, hit that subscribe button on our channel. Also hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. You, of course, as well can follow us on Facebook as well. Become a member, become a know-it-all. And anywhere you get your podcasts, that's right, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, drop a follow. Take us along for the ride, the car ride. Take us along to work. Take us to wherever you're going to, a special event or whatnot. So that way you can stay in tune with football.
Absolutely. On the bus, when you ride it in the bus, what's better than on a long bus ride just to listen to some football talk and some different subjects, that we don't normally hear on the mainstream TV. But, yeah, absolutely, Joe. And one of the things that came up, I think, recently, too, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are getting, a new stadium, or they're looking to, the plans have been revealed for something new for them. And what I thought was interesting, too, is the fact that they haven't done any renovations since they became a franchise. And we just talked about this, I think, last week or the week before.
Right.
That we're old enough now to know when they entered the league and became that expansion team. So that's been a long time, to have that same stadium. And what does it mean for them? Because again, there was always the talks, or they were always packaged with that London deal all the time to where we maybe thought, there were ties there and they were going to try and change to a London team and make the NFL crazy. But this shows now maybe that they're going to stick around here and build off this fan base that's probably now excited after what a year that they had last year.
Right. And that's the thing is like you see this. Like now it's like it's not anything crazy. Like you see new stadiums popping up quite often actually. And for the Jacksonville Jaguars, for them to kind of come in and like have this same mindset of like, hey, I think we're due for a new stadium. Now I know you mentioned before, like they haven't really done anything in terms of upgrades or renovations, if you will, with that stadium since '95 or so. Okay. But like you look at the owner, Shad Khan, who is very, very wealthy. I mean, that guy could definitely afford to do an upgrade or two if he felt like it. But now they're pursuing a whole new stadium. And what comes with that is a couple things. Anybody that has recently gotten a new stadium has also been up for the Super Bowl voting to get to host a Super Bowl, and also has the ability to even be up for hosting the NFL draft. So two major events that the NFL carries annually, and where they're going to get a ton of fans to come around from all around the world to be able to enjoy and be entertained at both events. And it's sales. It's money. It's a huge revenue boost for any team that has a new stadium with those events attached to it. So that could also be another alternative for Jacksonville, thinking like, hey, listen, it's been a while. We really haven't done any upgrades. Let's try to push for a new stadium. Now, it's not that easy. Teams have tried before and they've been shut down by whether it be the city or the NFL didn't approve of a new stadium for said team. It's happened before. So I think it's a little premature. And like you kind of touched on it too, is like, well, they haven't done upgrades. Well, why not? Yeah. I mean, you're still think about it. They're one of the newer teams. Like you're not an old school like the New York Giants, the Oakland Raiders at one point. Like those teams go way back where, okay, you could see them getting a new stadium by now. It's been centuries almost like. But for Jacksonville, I feel like they're still kind of new to the league. Like, I don't know. To me, it seems like premature because it is also a very, very large investment. It's a lot of money. It's like millions to $1 billion, maybe even a couple billion, depending on where you are in terms of taxes generated and whatnot. Like there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of organization, a lot of planning to even get to that stage. So for them as an organization, I just don't know right now is it the right time for Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing though too, because you look at it though, and I think the lease for this stadium that they have now ends in 2029. So they've got like a few years still now. So again, if you talk about how popular they are now, maybe this is the time they're seeing it maybe to try and get the people to buy in on it.
Yeah.
But you know, how old is Trevor Lawrence going to be at that point, and will he now move on to another team by then? You know, because you're talking about what, 6 years from now, right? 5 years from now.
He's still young though. He'll still be
yeah, I know, but I mean, if they, you know, that's what they're hoping is to keep him around long term. So you've got those changes that can happen in between there and that, but. Wait, those points that you touched about though too. Again, the fact that you could host things there. It's that hybrid that you're seeing too with these nicer type of climate cities. You like SoFi, it's the open air still underneath, but a closed top still, or semi-closed over the seating, and you have the open air underneath. What a perfect kind of thing for a Florida type of day. You know what I mean? So I think the stadium looks beautiful and stuff. So I think it'll be a cool setup for another Super Bowl and stuff like that, instead of being kind of like that little brother to Tampa always the time, right? If you go there, Tampa's kind of been that team to be there. Because, again, everybody's kind of looked at Jacksonville like, yeah, and they've been bad for so long. Yeah. This is something they need to do to try and generate some of that interest.
Well, you see, you talk about how bad they've been bad for so long, but when they first created the team and they were able to obtain some talent unlike any others before through like a free agency type of scheme, they were actually pretty decent right off the get-go. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they drafted well in the beginning. They added some premier free agents that were available to them. So they actually got almost like a really good upstart as an organization. And then they kind of took a little bit of a nosedive a little bit, you know, and now we're seeing them starting to crawl back out of the hole. We're starting to see them get better. They won the division last season. I mean, so they are trending towards a very good direction upwards. And maybe that's also the thinking behind this is they're like, hey, listen, we got great fans. We have our lease coming up in 2029. Let's start to plan this maybe, and maybe we can get a stadium done and agreed to and built by that time. And we just kind of move right in right away, very seamlessly. And that way, like that lease, you don't have to worry about it. Now you got a new stadium to go right into. So, there's always a lot of obstacles. There's always a lot of hurdles in this kind of situation. For Jacksonville, good luck to them. I mean, who knows? Like maybe they'll be able to pull it off. Maybe they'll figure it out. But also, like you brought up Tampa Bay, like they're the little brother in Florida. Well, yeah, they're also younger. So Tampa's been around for a little bit. Yeah, and you know, and they're one of the favorites in Florida. So because they've been around for so long. So but it'll be interesting to see where they go forward from here. Yeah. Quite honestly, like who knows? I mean, they could have a whole presentation to the NFL and the other owners and say, hey, listen, no, we've been really thinking about this. We've been really planning it all out. Here's all the schematics on the structure of it. Here's the schematics on the economical side of it. This is what we could see that we could bring in terms of revenue extra compared to the old stadium, and even events like entertainment events, concerts, special events besides
the college
NFL,
football events too,
where
you know,
like bowl games, even.
Bowl games, yeah.
You know, we've seen in Vegas, they were like first to crack the nut in terms of bringing in a big time bowl game for that stadium because it was new and they were able to get that interest. So Jacksonville's probably thinking along the same lines just as anybody else. The Buffalo Bills got approved for a new stadium.
Yep.
They're going to have one soon. So guess what comes with that? Super Bowl hosting
higher
the Super Bowl.
taxes than New York.
And,
that's what it comes with that.
Yeah,
we're paying for it. That's cool. After we voted it down like every year that they asked for it, they forced it on us again.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
That's what
we
New York
don't have a
does.
choice in New York.
It isn't.
You don't have a choice anywhere, really.
Yeah.
If they want it to happen, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter how many times you vote it down.
It's like New York State is a serial rapist. They just say, "Hey, you want it? Do I?
Listen,
no, I know. We don't really want this. Well, it's going to happen. No, I don't want this to happen." And it doesn't matter.
Just say no.
Yes,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They just take. They're like honey badger. Take what it wants.
That's right.
That's right. So there's some other headlines out there. Some different things that you don't hear on national media because it might be too dark or whatever and things like that. But
I'll tell
Joe,
you,
tell us about some stuff.
I mean,
over here. What do you got?
honestly, like these are things too that could easily be brought up and talked about. But I'm surprised that no light has been shed on this. It's like, so for one, the Miami Dolphins, their center. It's not huge news, but listen. Nonetheless, it's NFL news. We're craving for it. Center Connor Williams will not attend mandatory mini camps due to the organization not paying his guaranteed money that he's due. So that's a big deal with your veteran. Like this is a starting caliber center for the Miami Dolphins. A guy that is one of the leaders in the locker room, a guy that leads the offensive line every single week of the season, and he's owed guaranteed money. So why hasn't he been paid yet when it's been due? And that's the interesting thing. And that's why he's like taking a stance like, hey, I don't care if it's mandatory OTAs, training camp. I'm not coming in until you honor the deal that was there. So, and he has footing. He definitely can stand there and say, hey, listen, until you pay me what I'm owed, I'm not liable to come in and work for you. So
because then it's breaching contract, you would think, especially if his lawyers behind it or his whatchamacallit is his representation, says, hey, my client, he's supposed to be showing up here, but you're supposed to be paying him. So this ain't
what's
happening.
the deal?
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Like, get it over.
It's crazy that some teams even decide to do some of that stuff. But.
And honestly, like it's gonna happen. Like in this article that came out about this, like it could be an oversight. Yeah. It could be like they went with the article because it happened, but then days later it got all figured out. So take it like a grain of salt for right now, but something to monitor especially for a Dolphins fan. But other than that,
it's like what Antonio Brown did though too. Again, when he took over ownership, but that's what I mean. He at least even had an excuse. I just took over ownership. I don't know what's going on with payroll, but he didn't pay the players even to show up. Remember that and all that nonsense. But by the way, we've got Rambo in the house with us tonight.
What's going on, Rambo?
What's up? There we go. And Mike Tackett's in the house with us tonight.
I like it. What up, Mike?
Boom, boom, boom.
Welcome to the show, boys.
Mike
Welcome
says,
to the show.
Madden is Madden. Maximum Football 23 as a college and pro game and is releasing later this year for free. I'll go the free route. Yeah, and I'm keep wondering. I thought even their release was up with the NFL this year, but what is this, the last year now? Like, that they can put out an NFL licensed game. So I'm waiting still for like 2K or something like that, somebody to jump in on this.
Well, that's coming. Like we've announced it on the show. Like we know that's coming. They're building it. They're creating it. So that's in the works already. 2K is going to maybe perhaps slay the dragon of Madden. So and kind of dethrone them, if you will. So that's something to monitor. We're still waiting for that to be announced when they're going to release that. But other than that, like this Maximum Football 23 is interesting because just like Mike Tackett, our OG know-it-all out there, he's just saying like it's a free route. You can download it for free. You can play it for free. And that's going to be something that captivates a lot of gamers out there, especially that are into sports and into football. So
that's what got the ESPN 2K one before. It was like $20 brand new.
Yeah,
when you're usually paying $60 a game, like 65. The people get mad at every year. That boggles me.
Right.
Like, dude, I'm not paying full game for a football game. That just the only thing different is maybe roster changes because people change teams. You do make minor changes here and there, and it's basically the same type of game. You know, like I'm not buying a brand new one again because even once you have that old one, it's no good the next year. Basically, kind of, you know what I mean. And then for trade-in value, you get nothing. So the free route, that sounds good. I know it was in beta or testing areas, and I think Mike Tackett was actually one of the testers on it, I think, or something. And I saw early graphics, and they looked okay, but I think they had time maybe to brush it up too and get it going. But I think even Doug Flutie is part of that game too as well.
But even then, even if the graphics aren't there, it's a free game. Like you really can't complain that much.
Give it a try.
As long as the detail is there in terms of like how to run the team and like your trades, your free agents, and all that kind of deal. Like as long as they did a good job on the structure of the game, I feel like it'll be a home run.
Yeah.
And honestly, like anything for free, and if it's decent at all, like it's a huge win. Like there's going to be tons of people playing it. So I look forward to it. I'm curious to see, what direction they go in, like in terms of like modes, like, you know what I mean? Cause like, I know for some people out there, they love the scouting aspect of football, like in a pro level and be able to scout college players, you know what I mean? Or are they going to have a mode where, and Mike Tackett might be able to answer this, or are you going to have a mode where you're a player? We see that a lot where you're your player. You create a profile, a look, a stature, what position you want to play, and then you go through college first into the pros. Is there going to be some kind of game mode like for that too? So like there's a lot of different ways that they could go with that with Maximum Football. It'll be interesting to see when it does come out. And Mike Taggart said, still in beta, we're testing the Dynasty mode this month. Doug Flutie is part of the old Maximum Football IP.
Yeah.
There you go. So there you go. Our boy Mike Tackett is on top of it
Hashtag know it all.
part of the testing.
You can
features
create
of
a
the
player, he says, too, as well.
Nice.
So
See, there you go.
That is cool because,
This
again,
is top-tier knowledge,
like
by the
he's
way, being
saying,
dropped.
for free, and you get both games kind of in the same because, again, Madden will have you be your player, and you do some things within college, but not like be able to play your college season, like, right, and then become your
Well, they have a
NFL player
story
and then
mode.
move on. Yeah.
So it's like a story mode, so where like you play certain aspects of your college career.
Okay.
And then that determines where you get drafted in the draft type of deal. So it's kind of a cool story, and it's a good spin on like getting to like taking a look at, from where you start in college and how you progress and then where you get drafted. That's kind of cool, but I feel like that's where it ends. Like you don't use your player in the NFL and during other seasons. It's just a story mode, and that's where it ends, is when you get drafted. So I'm wondering with this game if it's going to be you play, you get drafted, and now you're playing as your character in the NFL, on a team you get drafted by.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be cool, and that's where I think it would make sense, especially if it's a combo type of game. I mean, it only makes sense like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And how far does the licensing go? With the college teams and things like that, and as far as NFL,
it won't be. I feel like he said no.
Okay.
No on that, everybody. But nonetheless, it's still got some cool features, like the create a player mode and what have you. And Dynasty mode sounds intriguing. I'm curious to see, where they're headed with that. But again, like we go back to like 2K and stuff, and that's going to be coming out. So be prepared for their launch. What are they going to do differently than Madden has? Because we know that there's been a lot of diehard Madden players out there that have criticized and obliterated the staff at Madden for changing certain modes or changing how the AI plays on the football field. Like I know for a while, my biggest complaint was, and it seemed like it never got changed. They said they did, but the linebackers used to intercept the ball everywhere on the football field, which would be like ridiculous. You know what I mean? And like you could throw the ball 10 yards past the linebacker and somehow he jumps straight up in the air and takes it out of the air and picks it off, and it would frustrate the hell out of you.
Yeah.
So
they eventually did change it.
I wonder if, in this game where it's going to be a little bit better that way. So Mike Tackett just mentioned, he goes, it's 100% customizable and shareable. Interesting. We'll definitely be creating and getting all NCAA, D1, and NFL teams.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's going to be
That's
amazing.
interesting about it being a free game. It's got the licensing.
Yeah.
Because one other thing that I think has come out now with the NCAA and the new NCAA game, and we were talking about it off air and was bringing it up now. It's a perfect segue. That players now are trying to boycott this game or something because of it, because of the pay they're getting for it. Because again, now they're able to get paid for their likeness in the game, and then now the new NCAA game is going to be coming out.
Right.
But there's a problem with that, Joe. Why don't you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, EA Sports. So the college football video game that everybody has been clamoring for. We can't wait for it to come out. We've been dying for a new edition of the NCAA football season. Now it's finally going to have a game. However, according to the College Football Players Association, they are urging other players out there to boycott the game now. And it's because of a minor detail in terms of payment. What EA Sports is saying is that they're about to pay about $500 per player. Now, one thing we don't know is how many players are involved. Yeah. Is it every single player that plays D1 college football?
Yeah,
because in that case, I think that's pretty.
You just made the list,
right? But something tells me that that's not it. Something tells me that it's going to be like just starter caliber or star caliber type of players that are probably going to get paid the money. And if it's let's just say, like, for example, it's maybe 11 players per team that are going to get the likeness payment or whatever. 500 a person. Yeah, there's a crap ton of college teams, but if it's only Division I, if that's really where it's only going to get the payment, who knows? Is that too much? Is that too little? I mean, it's kind of hard to think, like, if you're a college athlete right now and you're playing Division I football and your likeness is going to be in a video game, that right there is cool beyond itself. Like, oh, I'm going to be in a video game. That's cool. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get a little bit of money on top of it. That's pretty darn awesome. But for you to expect as an athlete to get paid something crazy like $50,000 or 100,000, like, do you know how many athletes are in this nation? Mm-hmm. Like, there's no way they could kind of give that kind of money away to every player or every Division I player for that matter. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm not 100% sure in detail with EA Sports, that is, like, how many checks are they cutting? Are they cutting every Division I player? Are they cutting every star player in Division I? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I understand that there's a likeness thing and some guys are going to get paid. Is there a tier system? Like, we don't know with EA Sports in general, like, what's the payout schematic look like? What's the breakdown? Mm-hmm. And because of that, it's kind of hard to get behind the College Football Players Association because they obviously know the details. They have to.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me is, like, for EA to kind of say, like, okay, this is going to be your guys' cut of the game. Are they lowballing them? I don't really think so, because when you have a lot of players that you're going to be expected to pay, and there's thousands and millions of those type of players, is it everybody getting a cut? Is it just a few guys? We don't know. But for EA Sports, it's like, I feel like they're giving a decent amount out. Like, call it what you will, $500 per person. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a good deal.
Where's my money?
So I mean, for the players that are going to be like, maybe they will, who knows? This story could blow up. Maybe it will go away. We don't really know.
Yeah, it could. It's
the seriousness of it. But honestly, like, this is something where if you get any kind of money on top of being in the video game, I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, and then this is where we talked about, paying players for likeness and all this other stuff. And I think it's only coming out now because of, to stir up the fact that it's EA. And look, we're able to get paid, but it's only this, and that's not right. You know what I mean? So I think just to spark that.
I think it's just
kind of jab at the big guy, you know.
Right.
Oh, EA, you know, they're only against $500. Are you crazy?
I mean, honestly, like think about it. This is kind of like a
depending on where it's spread out, like you said. You know
but I think it's really more about reaction.
Yeah,
They're reacting.
Yeah.
They're reacting too early instead of really sitting back and thinking about like, okay, well, this is what they agreed to, and that's the other thing too. This has already been agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the College Football Players Association is urging their players to boycott the game just means that it's already been agreed to.
Yeah.
There's the negotiation part is over with. Like there is no renegotiating. It's been agreed to. They're going to move forward with the game, and they're just trying to get the players to be like, hey, you should boycott the game. What's that going to do? You can boycott the game all you want. It's still going to happen because they know by releasing this game that has been sought after by millions of former college football gamers. I mean, it's been decades since we've had one. And now that this is about to come out, they're not putting a stop to it. It's going to happen. So be happy with what you get.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that's interesting here. I never thought for myself that I think that players should be paid. You know, that's my stance on the whole thing. But whatever, you know, we're in that type of era now. And we'll see. Mike Tackett says, as of 2021, 74,000 players play college football. So that's what I mean. So it's like, there you go, Mike. That's what's the breakdown?
Yeah, right.
And that's what I mean. You're talking about image and likeness. I think once you get down to a certain point in the roster, they've got to be generic white dude, generic black dude, and things like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, like the older Maddens used to be and stuff like that, you know, before they got better with graphics and stuff. So we'll see. You know what I mean? Again, not a whole lot of NFL news going on right now, but those are some of the subjects, especially even college football and stuff.
Yeah, there's no way it could be a check for every player in college. There's just no way that you're talking about like $30+ million. Like
Mike Tackett says,
no
Dan Smith, BYU.
Excellent. Like it.
Yep. So the anything else you want to cover on any of that stuff?
Yeah, like so like the next bit of news I wanted to talk, and this is kind of for usually when you hear negative news in the NFL, it's like a player did something wrong, they got into trouble, and things have to be figured out in terms of going to court and whatnot. But this is something different. Is two Cleveland Browns by the names of Greg Newsome II and Demetric Felton both had their cars stolen at gunpoint. Now, this is insane because you don't normally hear about this, and you know what? You hear about it all the time and every day, like an average person might get their car robbed. But for a player, an NFL player for that matter, two of them on the same team, though, this is what's really weird about this is that it's almost like it was a setup. You know, it's almost like to me like it really happened, but good thing that Greg Newsome and Demetric Felton, they're both fine. And that's all well and good, but it's like,
was it outside like the stadium, like after practice or something like that?
Yeah,
like,
they were out. Like it wasn't obviously it's not in because they're encaged in a fence. There's no way they can get in.
Yeah, wherever the parking is.
Yeah,
right?
no way.
Yeah,
it's got to be. It's out after hours and everything. And
yeah, it must have been at the same place.
The interesting thing is like it's two guys from the same team. It's not like it's like two different hits.
Yeah.
So maybe they were
two different assailants too. Just like it was the same dude. Like all of a sudden he hit them both up. He's like, I'm on a roll tonight. I'm going to get the first guy. Now I'm going to go after this guy. I'm like, no way. You're a Cleveland Brown too? This is great.
Say, buddy, come with me because I seen two cars that we're going to go take. But I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy for this to happen. And you know, it just kind of brings a light to like this happens to everybody. So
at least they're safe.
Yeah, at least they're safe and everything. But, you know, and it's fine, dude. Like, these guys, you know, they have insurance, obviously, so they're either going to get their cars back or they're going to, you know, be well compensated for it.
I'm just reading across here the drop, by the way. If you guys don't even pay attention at all, we've got headlines and everything every week along the bottom. We call it the drop. We used to do it as a segment of our show and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I actually had to read
a lot
it
of
off.
crazy headlines in there and stuff as well. And I just saw even too that Will Ferrell is going to be playing John Madden in a movie.
Yeah. That was actually last week's drop.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even see that. Like, how does that even work? Like I can't even imagine that.
Because here's the thing: is when they cast certain actors and actresses, like obviously sometimes they don't get their first pick. You know what I mean? Sometimes, and that's not to say that Will Ferrell wasn't, but when they try to find a guy with likeness to the person they're doing a movie about, and Will Ferrell, I don't know if he was the first guy on the docket, I don't know if he was the third guy, what have you, but when they showed a picture of both of them side by side, right, smiling, and I guess it's the smile. Like the smile is so similar to John Madden, and the way their cheeks are, or whatever.
Are they going to add cosmetics to him and everything too? Or?
No, he's going to be. It's just like Kevin James acting as Sean Payton. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
there's a slight likeness and there's a demeanor that the character can bring. So they cast them and they pick certain actors. So I feel like Will Ferrell, they just kind of said, well, we might have a harder time finding a guy physically and, you know, facially to look just like Madden, and can he act like him? Like, so they decided to go with Will Ferrell, who obviously he's thinner than John Madden, but maybe he has the same type of characteristic in terms of his smile that looks very similar to Madden. They think that can pull off because Madden smiled a lot, you know, and who knows, maybe he can pull it off. Maybe he did it, you know, maybe he blew the directors away with his performance in a scene because they all have to try out basically for you know, certain movies and what have you. But yeah, I mean, I think it might be okay. I mean, I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm definitely going to see it, definitely going to watch it. But yeah, it's an interesting aspect when you look at who's playing who movie to movie. You know what I mean? Or even a TV show or something like that. So hopefully they did their due diligence, obviously, and they picked Will Ferrell, which is kind of weird.
Well, yeah, because you know, you instantly think of like, you know, a Frank Caliendo who's done, you know, Madden so well and the voices and things like that, and he even kind of with prosthetics and things like that can kind of look like him and things so too. But the only thing is with me, that kind of deters me on this thing, and it's no offense because I like Will Ferrell for the Anchorman movies that he did and some of his original stuff, but when he starts doing remakes and other things like that, he starts to make it like silly and weird, like the Land Before Time. What was it? Land of the Lost. I used to love that show when I was a kid, and what he did to the movie just murdered the movie and murdered the whole thing. And I'm just wondering how far and what kind of leash that they have on Will Ferrell in this movie and what they make it out to be. I want to hope that they make it still more documentary story of John Madden, and they don't kind of make it, you know, get him.
It's not going to be a comedy.
You know?
It's not going to be a comedy.
I just hope they don't go that route.
No, it's not going to be a comedy. It's going to be about Madden's career, about how he came up and everything like that. So how he grew up and what have you. So, but I could get along the side of you with Frank Caliendo because he's done the voice. But here's the thing. Frank Caliendo does the voice in short term. You're going to ask him to do how many scenes and that voice or... You know what I mean? Like he does, you're right. Like the stature is close. It's similar. You know what I mean? But again, he doesn't look anything like it. And when he smiles, it's different, you know? So maybe Caliendo didn't even want to partake in the movie. There's also that aspect of it too. Some guys, they just say no. Just say no. They're like, no, I don't want to do that movie. No, I don't want to play that character. I'm not interested. And maybe they did, you know, pursue Frank Caliendo, and it just didn't work out. So, and they defaulted to Will Ferrell. But again, this is going to be more about how Madden grew up, how he got to where he got, and how the game even evolved, the Madden game. So, I think it's going to be I feel like it's going to be well done. I hope Will Ferrell can get into character because he's going to have to do his homework for sure. And maybe that's also the other aspect of it is that they envision Will Ferrell being able to pull it off because sometimes, because you remember Madden in his whap, boom,
whap,
zap. You know what I mean? Like he always make these like noises and phrases that he would say. It might fit Will Ferrell.
We'll see. We've seen Jim Carrey do even serious roles and things like that too and stuff. And who knows? We'll see what happens with that.
It'll be interesting.
Mike
for sure.
Tackett, all of a sudden, he says he's probably not too far from bed. He said
bummer.
that's weird to say. He says
He starts to come and then he pulls out.
That's right.
Yeah, then he says love not working nights, so he doesn't work nights anymore.
Excellent.
So that's
Congratulations,
good. So maybe
Mike.
he's able to watch our show some more, like he was able to before, because I
Right.
know work gets in the way
gets in the
sometimes
way.
and some of the
Definitely
other
does.
stuff. But he also enjoys to listen to us too on the go, as well, like through all those other media outlets. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
Congratulations, by the
absolutely.
way.
Yes.
No more nights for you, buddy.
No more nights, buddy. That's awesome. That means we could do all kinds of other different things, man, with Mike Tackett.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? We got to make that trip out to Ocala out there in Tampa. I know you're
Yeah.
going to be going shortly, so
Yeah.
That sounds
yeah.
awesome.
Mike, hit me up, man. I'll be in Florida. I'm going back down in July. So I'll be there for like 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that.
nice.
But yeah, we'll link up, man. If you're free, we'll definitely link up.
Awesome. So, yeah, we are here tonight to talk about the Madden and things like that. And we know now that Josh Allen has been chosen for the Madden 2024 cover here. Madden 24. Right. So there he is. And so we decided to, again, with a week that it's not a whole lot going on, we decided, hey, you know what? Let's take a look back at even at the covers. And I was like, thinking about the games too, and I'm like, who did not do well, when they're on the covers, or who's the most bland guy or whatever. And then it got into
what was the worst cover ever made?
Yeah, worst cover ever
like,
made, And then it made me think about the games all in general. So
yeah.
I think we're just going to take a look back at the covers from the beginning and just touch on the games kind of quick and just roll through it to what they are now. And probably just gripe a little bit, about the games, but then also bring up the good parts about it.
But yeah, there were some different. Each game kind of brought a different type of feel. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you could nitpick on them, and you say, oh, well, I don't like this about this Madden, or they improved this, but I really hate the fact that they changed this. You know what I mean? So, and some of them nobody will even recognize. Like the younger generation, they're not going to realize the very first Madden. And the very first Madden was made by Sega Genesis. So that'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to kick it right to it. Let's go old school here. And this is
very
back
first
in
one.
1991, Joe, in
91.
John Madden
Football is what
right
it was
there
called.
on the Sega Genesis. And again, it's like we had Genesis when we were a kid and everything and stuff, and this was cool. And that was even like the Genesis would be now like the Series X or the PlayStation 5 of our era, like kind of right now. It was like it was next gen because we were so used to Nintendo and everything. And Tecmo Bowl, Super Tecmo Bowl was big,
awesome
on the NES, on the regular Nintendo systems. So that was kind of the game to beat. Yeah. And then this game came out and kind of changed the whole game.
That's it. It just
reinvented football games now.
It reinvented the way you played, and it was a 16-bit. Gigabyte, in terms of graphics and whatever.
Yeah, because Nintendo's all 8-bit.
A lot of the younger generation, they're like, what was Sega Genesis? It was a different console. It was like one of the more advanced consoles out at that time. And then John Madden Football comes out, and you're like, well, I know John Madden. Like, if you're from back then, you knew who John Madden was then, and you're like, wow, he's amazing. He's a great coach, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, he's got a game out. Let's try it out. It was so much more advanced than your Nintendo. Like, it was kind of close, but it was a little bit better. The graphics were a little bit better. And yeah, they did the best they could then. You know what I mean? It was an improvement in technology and what have you. But man, just to experience football at a different way, a different persona. And it was just amazing. And then the next one we have is John Madden Football 1992. And this is it's small jump, a year later. They added some things. They got a little bit better. Like the graphics were still kind of the same, but they added, a couple different modes or what have you. And still for Sega Genesis. And this is kind of where it all started to snowball. Nobody really envisioned, not even Madden himself knew how big John Madden Football was going to become.
Yeah, or even EA, Electronic Arts, the studio. You saw
they were new then too.
Yeah, it was Electronic Arts before, and they even had a few other games, but they were just jumping into the into the sports type of genre, and they jumped on this. And like you see in this one, you see EASN, and see ESPN was getting bigger in this type of time too as well.
Yeah, they were getting big.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, wicked big. And as you want to talk about the icons that were in ESPN at that point in time,
Yeah.
they were doing a play on ESPN without getting sued altogether and stuff like that. So the EASN Sports Network. So it was exciting to see this on a game because they're like, oh, now you got actually the telecast going on, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, it brought to EASN. Here's the thing, like a broadcast, watching it on TV. And that was different that you didn't really see with some of the other games, the old ones.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it started here. Yet we saw the first one in 91, 92 it comes, and they move forward and they grab 93. And you started to see like this kind of chain happening now, right? You had the first game, 92 comes out the very next year, and then the following year, here comes John Madden Football 93. And 93 was where it kind of got a little bit of a jump. You started to notice a lot more popularity. If you notice the EA Sports logo changed in this one, they started to get more well-known around the sports entertainment community and video games. They just started to, like, as a company, they just jumped, not just because of this game, but this was one of their I don't want to say called it a crutch, but it was one of these things where, like, if this pans out, this is going to catapult our company going forward, and that's going to bring us into other avenues of sports, different types of sports that we could kind of create or recreate and get into other avenues of that area. So,
right. And if you look at it too, and when we're talking about even covers, you see the difference between the first cover, it's older John Madden with just a photo of him back even kind
as
of
a coach.
like as a coach there, and then they added some stuff. Then with the photos, it was him now, and now this one they add in the autograph insignia. So you're seeing gaming getting bigger too, and the way the consoles are delivering things. And like you said, the EASN is gone now, so maybe they did start to get in trouble with ESPN. So they're like, well, let's just make it EA Sports,
right.
And they just stuck with that ever since. And now you have that trademark. EA Sports, it's in the game,
Exactly.
Boom. And then it's a moneymaker right there. They got it. Everybody knows it's in the game. And John Madden Football, I remember, getting on the school bus when I was young and hearing everybody talk about this game. Oh, man, the new Madden, this. And I'm like, wow, no way, really? Because I was still even into just even the Tecmo Bowl here and there.
Right.
And getting into this, like you said, it's like the staple. Like you said, you're almost like that borderline. If this hits big, this is going to be it. It was, and now it's kind of like the staple that really kind of set it forward and get it going for the franchise.
Yeah, you just saw that started to take off, especially 3 years in now. And then they come out with the next Madden game. Now, the interesting thing about this is, like you mentioned, the covers are changing, right? Like every year they're starting to bring something new. And in 94, it's basically just a picture of Madden broadcasting. Now, you look at 93, that's when he was in his prime of broadcasting. A year later, he's still a broadcaster. He's like one of these staples now in the booth. When you hear a game in the NFL and you heard John Madden's voice, you're like, this is football. This is what it's about. And the way he delivered games, it wasn't just like he was with his voice is what made it work. Yeah. He had a good voice for football, but also his character, his personality every single Sunday and even night games. Like when he was asked to do a game, you were always entertained because this guy would have some of the funniest sounds, some of the phrases that he comes up with, and you're just like, what is he? Sometimes you're like, what is he
went off
talking
on a
about?
story sometimes too.
Sometimes
you're like,
stories.
Yeah, well, I was talking to this guy, blah, blah.
And it would bring a different element to broadcasting, and I feel like he also evolved the broadcasting side of football as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, Madden 94, I played this even not so long ago. Well, for me, even it's been like maybe 6 months now, but I still have a Sega Genesis that I kicked back on
Nice.
and retro, and I have Madden 94 still, and it's fun to get onto it because again, as you saw, not only just the graphics get better, gameplay, more different things you can do to spin move. But it's funny because you see a spin move now, and the guy just does like this, like a ballerina spin. He just spins completely, like he's almost doing a triple axel, like ice skating. And then your stiff arm was kind of just like, and speed burst chugging along. So it was kind of funny, but it was key, and it was awesome to be able to do that stuff because this is still a time before juke moves, hit stick that we know now, and But it was
see-
good. And
but
the
you
graphics,
seen-
again, you're like, yeah, we can see
Right.
the actual helmets and stuff.
But you've seen in this game too those little nuances that they add when you had to spin. Yes, your guy kind of almost stayed in position and spun. He moved like very slowly, like forward, but that spin move was something new and intriguing. And then the stiff arm was like, you're gonna like for anybody nowadays that was to look at this game and how it was played, it was like you don't see the stiff arm come out. It's just like it's just there, like a flash, like a camera flash.
Yeah.
And it was a different way to play the game. Now you're like, hey, I'm playing just like Bo Jackson on the football field, and I'm running and I'm breaking tackles, and I'm spinning off of guys, and I'm stiff arming them. And it was a new aspect of gaming for football in the video game world, where now you're starting to say, okay, well, I don't think this game is going anywhere anytime soon. Now you could kind of be comfortable with the fact, like, hey, it looks like sales are rocketing through the roof. Every single year, we're selling so many copies, we can barely keep them on the shelf. And it's like, all right, let's see how far we can take this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it changed things. And back then too, also no player likeness. Everybody just had a dark face, like just dark.
All you knew was colors.
Because
That's
again,
it.
they were just basically concentrating on getting. It looks like a helmet now. It looks like a jersey,
A player,
and pads, and
yeah.
everything, and a player. Because when it first started, it was just kind of a figure as you went, and so that's what they focused on. Cookie cutter background, all the fans not moving,
Dude, all the same. They were
the same.
moving.
Yeah,
like when you
that's when
scored
someone-
and stuff, you would see them like they all, and it was like, it wasn't like you saw people. You saw like something that represented the crowd. Like you saw red and blue, like it looked like hats,
Dots
but
or
it wasn't
whatever things, yeah.
very clear. You were just like, kind of from far away, it looks like a crowd. And they would move up and down. Like that's it. That's all the movement you got. So when you scored, they moved up and down rapidly. When you got a first down, they kind of moved up and down. Like it was kind of hilarious. But at the same time, you really appreciated the attention to detail that they were trying to implement in every single game. It got a little bit better every year.
Absolutely. Referee's still terrible. Right.
Actually, the referees back then were probably
pretty
spot
good.
on.
They're actually
Like
pretty
there really
good.
wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Now you add AI into it, and it's like it gets all messed up.
Yep. All right. Now we're moving on to John Madden 95.
95.
And you notice with this one, too, again, they go with just him broadcasting. Now the players there, and a little sleeker here. Look what they do with the NFL logo.
Yep.
Even doing that. But then new. 1994 NFLPA rosters. So now, again, before they were licensed by just ESPN, and the NFL had an actual license to it and stuff. But this is where you really see the NFL logo pushed a lot. And now the NFLPA, Players Association, tied to the game.
Right, and this is where you started to get that licensing aspect, is where the NFL wanted to be a part of it, because they started to recognize, hey, this could be another revenue stream for us. And we all know NFL chases money. So they're like, hey, EA Sports, they contact EA Sports. They talk to John Madden, like, what would you think if we kind of bought into the game at an early on? And here it is, 95. Now they're implementing the NFL crest. They're implementing NFLPA, which is Players Association, which means what? Now you're going to start getting into likeness. You're going to start seeing numbers. You're going to start seeing names. And you saw names in this one at not on the jersey, because it really wasn't that
Right.
defined, but you saw the name in black underneath their feet as they're running, as the play's going on. Like, oh my God, I'm controlling Troy Aikman. You know what I mean? Like it added an element to where like now you feel like you're utilizing the actual players on the football field. And that's another hurdle that they got over in 95.
And the one thing about this game, or not even this one specific, but what Madden started to do in these later ones is the view of your, the offense from behind quarterback. So you're almost playing now quarterback. You get to vision see things to see what the defense is doing, stuff like that. Before that, with the Tecmo Bowls and the other things, it was always like a side scroll,
Sideways.
just like you would
Yeah, it
see
was
it in
2D.
a broadcast. You know what I'm saying? So this kind of added the depth of the field, and kind of you could see what's going on, see what the defense is, and it was giving you a different perspective and situational awareness and what to do and what play to pick then and what might work. But yeah, as we keep going further, you see the slight differences. And like you said, it was key with the NFL and now the Players Association. If you look here at 96, getting crazier again. A lot of different shapes. 96. So it's like
A
all of a
little bit
sudden
more detail.
Windows, 95. They were kicked in hard here
kicked in.
because you can see the fonts getting crazy now. The fonts are going over. They're like, let's try all of them. Let's throw it all on there. But the Players Association, NFL 96. I still own this one as well, and I play this one every now and then too. And the thing is with this one, which was cool, is not only just your season mode stuff, but the different jerseys. You could change your jerseys from old school teams, play as the old school teams, the old Hall of Fame teams, the good dynasty teams, franchise good teams, the 70s Eagles and things like that, Steelers.
Yeah, dynasty
you
teams.
can play as them.
Right.
So it was great to have on there. And then the fact that you can change the different jersey colors and types with, home and away and stuff. Right. That was something new and cool for this game.
Yeah, and you could see that, like you mentioned, like those little bit of changes are all evolving this game. It's all getting much better because of these little details that they're starting to pay attention to. And then also you see EA Sports rebranding yet another trademark logo for them. Mm-hmm. Now you're seeing the E and the A in bold letters on top with a new style. And then you have sports underneath it in blue. So like they're still got the same kind of resemblance, but now they're kind of they're enhancing their own company now. It's going to be more identifiable as they go. And just like you said, like colors, the teams, there was a bit more detail then, and it started to kind of really take off because just like you mentioned too, is the details that they were paying attention to. They were adding different colors, different uniforms. Now you can change in or out. Modes were being changed. So the game just is year in and year out. It seems like it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, and at this moment too, still a lot of great, like you said, the NFLPA, a lot of great players at this point. You get to play as Dan Marino still and things like that. We're all on the game still.
Yeah.
So it's cool to for now, even now, to go kick back and play as some of those old school players and stuff like that. So it was pretty neat to do. Steve Young for the 49ers. And have those matchups. But it was cool. Again, moving into the speed burst and all of that, spin move, all still there. Hurdle added, I think, got into this one, so that was a little different. But it was more like a jump and kind of go nowhere, like with this whole type of thing.
It was a way to dodge the diving tackler because that's the other thing too. Is in these games is they didn't have form tackling yet.
Yeah,
it was more like the guys would dive at your feet and then you would fall down. Like that's really what it was.
Yeah.
So if you were able to hurdle or time it just right, and the guy dove for your feet and you jumped over him, your guy stays up and you can keep going. Mm-hmm. So another little detail that they improved on.
Absolutely. Here we go. Moving into 97 again. Here still Madden. Well, he was a broadcaster for so long too, and then again, this is where everybody kind of knew him as. So again, he's into your television set. Now he's even pointing at you in this one here, showing off the Super Bowl ring. And again, same thing. Here I am. It's me again. You're gonna get more of the same. You love it, and here it is. And I didn't play this one, but I know, again, just more advances. NFL logo there. Now you don't see even the EA Sports logo at all.
I believe the EA Sports on this cover was way at the bottom corner.
The bottom.
Like they didn't want to make it as big of a deal anymore. They were like, well, this is our franchise, so to speak, and it's going to just be carrying forward. But now let's dial it back. Now that everybody knows who EA Sports is, and it's very identifiable, we can just, make it a little smaller, put it down below, and keep promoting Madden.
Right.
And this is also, you've seen how now it's called Madden.
Yeah.
It's like, now it's Madden 97. There's no John Madden, this, that, and the other thing. Or, and you saw Madden, I think, what was it? We went back to 95. It was called Madden. 94, I think, is when it first started. I think at 94, maybe, it was first started being called just Madden instead of John Madden.
Yep.
Madden. There's Madden there, and then
John Madden. Was it 94? 94. Yeah,
it was 94.
Yep.
And that's when you see it just being plain, just says Madden on there. So now you're into 97. Not a whole lot has changed in 97. Maybe they improved the graphics a little bit. It's starting to get a little bit more evolved in that aspect. And another cool thing is like in this is when you did a quick start game, is you were able to use any team at all. Like if you wanted to have a buddy over and say, hey, I'm going to play with the great Philly Eagles team, you know, and then I'm going to play with the great San Francisco 49ers, and we're going to play against each other with all these legendary players. It's pretty cool that you could do that right from the get-go. Or you could play like the all-star team for the AFC versus the all-star team for the NFC in quick games, which was kind of a cool aspect to it.
Yep, and as far as the cover, if you look at it, started in 95, but 95 didn't have a lot of, focus on the players. Again, no names, nothing like that. It wasn't until they got, the licensing here. Now you notice if you look at this one again, 96 and 97, you can actually see names on the jerseys and in the players. Again, there's two guys trying to block Reggie White right there. You know what I mean? So you're starting to see now the players getting on the covers as well. So again, this is before players you're voting for the cover,
voting for the Madden
year.
cover, right?
Madden's still focused. It's his game.
It's on
but
football.
Now you're
it's on
starting
Madden.
to see some of the players added in to the covers. All right, then move on. Next we've got Madden 98. To where again there's the
no
EA
players.
Sports logo. Now there's no players. Again,
No
he
players.
takes all the glory again. I think he wanted to show off that slim body. He started
That's right.
Because I
He's
think
like, I look
this
good.
was big when Nutrisystem was getting big. Dan Marino was on it, with isotoner gloves.
Yep.
O.J. Simpson was there too.
And the funny thing is, like, everybody was doing that. Like, there was a diet called Nutrisystem, if you've never heard of that. And it was kind of like a shake-based type of diet. And a lot of people were losing weight over it.
Yeah.
Like, they were just... You take a couple shakes during the day, and then you eat a sensible dinner
yes,
at the end of the day. And the pounds were shedding off, and John Madden was part of it. Like, he was even a sponsor. He was in the commercials that he made, and other celebrities were as well. So, like, again, this is another year forward, and it is Madden's game. EA Sports got here because of Madden, so they're like, you know what? We're going to do a refresh of the cover. We're going to have you just kind of stand there with the football with your hands out, like, yeah, it is what it is. This is my game. Look at us now. Years later, we're still going.
Yeah. And again, season modes that they had, and they were just straight up season. There was nowhere near like a franchise like they do now. It was just like you just play as the team, you do the season, whatever it is,
1 year,
and be done.
That's it.
You
go for the Super Bowl or whatever, and then at the end of that, you didn't play the following season. There was no following season. It was just you played that year, and that's it. You want to start over and play again? Okay, do it again.
Yeah, and I want to say, I don't know what year it started, but around these times, too, wasn't it too, I know with 96, at least, you could keep hitting a player after the whistle and you not get called for it, and you can actually injure them, and then they're stuck out there, and the ambulance would drive out onto the thing, or the cart would go drive out onto the field, and, pick them up on the thing and send them back out.
Gurney,
pick them up on the gurney, get them
they
out.
slide them into the ambulance, and then it drives away.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is about that, it's like when it would back up, it backed up crooked. Like it never backed up straight back like a car would.
Yeah, right.
It was like dragging the ambulance dragged back like in a weird angle.
Yeah.
And then your player would disappear into it and then it'd drag away.
Well, yeah, and that shows you even too, maybe now how, we don't like to joke about injuries and stuff like that. So like in the game, you're like, come on, I'm going to knock him out. Yeah. And there comes the
take
ambulance.
This guy out.
Now you don't see the ambulance at all in any of these
Emmett
games.
Smith has been running all over me. I'm going to just beat him up after the play.
Yeah, break him, and watch the ambulance come out. It'd be awesome,
It was funny because that's the thing too is like, extracurricular activities took place after the plays.
Yes.
Where you could try to take out somebody.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? It's like I used to do that in the baseball games too, try to hit the pitcher and knock him out or something, hit a batter, then start a fight. Fights in the hockey games too as well, So it's all good times playing these games. Again, now that you're getting on some of these ones here too, let's look at 99, and there's no more Sega. No, I think you noticed. I think it even happened with 98. 98, I think, was a switch over to where now PlayStation's out. Mm-hmm. PlayStation changed the game completely. That and Dreamcast.
Definitely. Yep.
Sega upgraded Dreamcast, to Dreamcast. It eventually would be a big flop for them again. They didn't sell a lot of units. But
that's also when 2K got involved. 2K came out with a game, and there wasn't any rules or licenses that they had to create a football game. They created, just like when Madden started, it was likeness in terms of colors. There were no names in 2K. There were no, logos or anything like that. But they would call them the Raiders. They would call them the 49ers. They would call them the Eagles, but they didn't have the likeness. They didn't have the logos or anything. But they wanted to create a football game. So 2K started to come out with games during this time, and Madden was like, all right, that's fine. Like, we know our game is still the premier game to go and get. But 2K started to come on around here, and you started to notice some people not being so against it. Like, they were like, oh, this is something new. Let's try this out. And it was different because in 99 and moving forward, you started to notice physical mechanics are being evolved in the game now. Now it looks more like a player running. You know what I mean? Where it wasn't just, little stick legs going back and forth. Now you're starting to see strides on players and running and better physical features for every player. So, and that's kind of where you started the evolution here in the game as well again.
Yeah, and I think I just want to touch on quick right before we get into this too. I might have missed even too because you brought it up. Joe Montana was big in this era too. So he started to have his own game, and I don't know if it was 2K that might have put those out because they also had a college football game too as well. That wasn't an EA one. There was another one that was rivaling it, and still from behind the lines, but a different feel, different look, and another bigger name on it. Joe Montana football. That was a bigger game. That started to kind of rival it a little bit at this point. But again, once that PlayStation came out, and people saw the commercials, and it was like, no more little guys spinning and twitch now. Boom. Like, oh, I can maybe kind of see their face now. And the helmet looks better. It was like graphics are like, whoa.
Yes.
Because it changed from the 16-bit to like 32 or something.
Right, 32. Exactly.
And it just looked amazing. They're like, oh, now we can do this. And then again, not exactly the wrap-up tackles, but better physics that way.
Better physics,
Putting your hands up
running,
to catch the ball.
The throwing of the ball from the quarterback. All that.
Kicks.
Offensive line still and D line was still kind of the same. Still had the same kind of limitations, I guess. But you started to notice those things, like the physical features now are starting to become more realistic.
Yep.
And you can tell, like, as a fan, and in '99, you were like, the graphics are amazing. Like, we thought then that 32-bit graphics were like lifelike. Yeah. Now we look back at them and we're like, I can't even tell who's who. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
like,
what is this?
How were we able to distinguish certain players? And besides the names underneath, like, how did you? You know what I mean? We thought it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was an advancement in technology.
Right, but it's funny too, is because everybody even talks about now certain people that try to play, if they're given a controller and they're not used to all the buttons, they're like, there's so many buttons to do this and that and that.
Yeah, right.
How do you do this? Yeah. They had less, in a sense,
less.
But, even though they had some of the same, because they had the bumpers and everything still,
right.
But you weren't able to, I'm thinking of things like the defensive line. You didn't have to swim and power move.
No moves like that.
You just had to kind of just whoop, and then kind of just beat them.
You
and get
basically,
around them, or you
it's
got locked
direction.
Up.
It's direction, and then your attributes for the player. Either you broke through or you didn't. There wasn't any swim moves or anything like that. And that's,
You really relied on the blockers, too. Like, if you were trying to run, you really need to make sure that they sealed that outside or whatever.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But it seems like they even worked better now. Because don't you play the games even now? Sometimes they're like, especially when they have to come out, the lineman comes out and comes across the line, and he's got to pick up that guy, and he doesn't. You're like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They didn't get that elaborate with these, things. They still had some good plays here and there, but they was just like line, boom, lock up.
But the interesting thing about that is that they were programmed to take on that guy in this play. Mm-hmm. Now there's just way too many variables. Like, now it's an intelligence factor, an AI for this particular blocker. Yeah. And if he doesn't have a high enough rating, he might have a really good chance of missing the block. Or they just run right by him. Yep. Back then it was, to me, it was almost like in this era now we're approaching 2000 because they didn't have AI then. Not yet. So it was like they're programmed to do these different plays and whatever. And it's like, this is more realistic to pro level football.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like a guy's not going to run by a player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just say, oh, well, I missed the block and I'm just going to run to nothing. There's nothing in front of them. They just keep running.
Just running.
So like, and now it's like, that's where you can kind of notice some things for approaching 2000 to like currently, where it's like, maybe they need to dial back on the AI a little bit more to make the game a little bit more realistic like it once was.
Yep, and there it is at Madden 2000. Again, NFL logo, EA Sports right there, just Madden. Again, with the X's and O's. Again, this is probably 2000. This is definitely I think the pinnacle of his, I think, career. Him, Pat Summerall, they were doing the games. They were doing the Thanksgiving Day games all the time. The turducken, I think, was starting to take effect here at this point.
Talk about Thanksgiving. Loved holidays. Love talking about them.
It's the year 2000. A lot of people thought the world was going to end at this point too. You know what I'm saying? So
2K.
It was a whole different thing. And like you said, started to get better with some of the graphics. You can actually understand some of these guys, see what they're doing. You have the hurdles and the more things you can do with the players. Just a step up kind of every year.
And the modes started to get better. And now if I remember correctly, this is about when scouting got involved in Madden. Is when the very beginning of scouting, where you could like look at players, like certain details of college players in terms of when the draft came around the corner, you had a better idea of maybe you wanted this guy over that guy or what have you. Nothing intricate at all. But again, this is kind of like another point in the game where it evolutionized video gaming in a sport. And you start to notice details like something like that again. Now they're starting to progress a little bit better.
Yep, absolutely. And now that brings up to NFL 2 or EA Madden 2001. And now as you see a vast difference.
Very different. And you see
he's still broadcasting.
Yeah, he's still broadcasting. He's still the man. He's still, part of the Madden. Obviously it's his name, his likeliness. But now you have a player for the first time. Very first time in 2001. Now you have a guy who was just Eddie George back then for the Titans was he was like the Iron Man of football at that time. This guy would not come out, would not take a breather. It was amazing. His conditioning alone would literally wear out defenses. Like they would start running the ball in the early part of the game, and it just seemed like everybody else got tired but Eddie George. Eddie George, give me the ball again. Run through everybody. Keep running. Just as hard as when they started the game. In the minutes left in the fourth quarter, he was running through people and making it very difficult on them. And Eddie George in 2001, when he got the Madden cover, the first Madden cover, is phenomenal career, but amazing season that year. He rushed for over 2,000 yards, and he was just running through people, and he was seen as one of those power backs.
Yep,
a guy that had decent speed, could run through you, could stiff arm you, could make you miss even, but had some very light feet, and great player. And what a player to have as your first real official Madden cover.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's the one that started it all right there with him. And a lot of people even said that with the curse and stuff like that, because even after that, he just dropped off the face of the planet in a sense.
They got injured too.
He got injured
the next season. So
and one thing you might notice too with these games now too, again, if you played the older ones, you were playing as the Houston Oilers. Yeah,
Brian Barrett's in the house right now. Welcome to the show, Brian. He said that's a nice ATM helmet, Texas A&M helmet.
Texas A&M.
There, boys. Yeah, Brian was one of the guys that actually helped me get that helmet because I was looking for something for the show, and when we started, way back when, and a few years later, I was able to obtain a helmet, my first helmet. And there you go.
Lo and behold,
a little story there.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian.
But absolutely. And so you see the difference from when it was the Houston Oilers and they end up changing to the Tennessee Titans. They moved out of Houston. Yeah.
Dude,
so a lot of people don't know the Houston Texans now. It
used to be called the Houston Oilers, and they had like the on top of his shoulder. If you could pull that picture up again one more time.
There it is.
on top of his shoulders, if you notice, it's a very like light blue, almost like a powder blue in a sense. That was their color for the Houston Oilers. It was that, and they had a logo of an oil rig. You know what I mean? A tower of an oil rig, and it was outlined in red and black and white. And the numbers were also like outlined in red, and they had white numbers, and they were pretty dope uniforms.
Yeah.
I think they were awesome. They should actually bring those back.
Yeah, they should definitely do it for like a special throwback
special
day
occasion or whatever,
like that.
like an anniversary or something. But again, now they moved Tennessee Titans. Now they're called Tennessee Titans, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and around a few years before that, when we talk about the 90s, and that's when the Jags, came into play. I want to say 95 because 96 they were on that game because I own 96 and I still play it. And the Jacksonville Jaguars were there, and that's when this league started to really change for me. Even too, you're like, wow, they added 2 new teams. And look at the colors. And the turquoise,
very different.
And the teal,
very different.
It was definitely different. And now this was one of the first couple times I actually saw a team start to change places they were from. You know what I mean? If Houston left, and then all of a sudden now Tennessee's in here. You started to see the Baltimore change from Indiana to Baltimore, and then Baltimore to the Ravens.
That's a whole other fiasco.
Coming out. Yeah,
we can get into that.
That's very confusing because then it throws me off. Because then if you do a throwback day, who's doing the throwback? Because the Houston Texans, technically, they're newer. They could technically say, well, if we're still Houston, we could do an Oilers, jersey, maybe still, right? Or no? I don't know. Because
I don't think so. Like, it's all about your history.
About whatever franchise
it's about
moved,
your
right?
history. So if you were the first team, like the Titans were the Houston Oilers. The Houston Texans were never the Oilers. So, no, I don't think they would have that right.
But the Browns left and went to Baltimore to become the Ravens.
Right.
But they don't go throw back and go Browns.
No,
because
why
the
would
Browns
you?
are a thing now. You know what I mean? But isn't that funny though?
Yeah, I mean it's funny,
It's
but
weird.
it just wouldn't work. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
So I mean,
Brian says here too, maybe you covered this, but what's the word on Barkley? Love to have him back, but at the right price, stays or goes. It is. They are not really talking right now.
The same
it's
as every
right
other
now.
franchise tagged player that is still technically tagged that aren't going anywhere. It's the same thing. Josh Jacobs, same deal. Saquon Barkley, same deal. I have a feeling that whenever you see this happen where there's like a break in talks or they're not talking right now, I feel like both parties want to get the deal done. And to me, I think when there's a hang up, whether it be a running back or a wide receiver or whatever it is, whatever the case may be, when it's gone this long and we're not close. We're not far apart, but we're just not close at all, and there's no real progression in talks. That it's come down to where they might actually have the deal mostly done. It's just 1 or 2 things in the contract don't sit well with one side or the other, and they haven't been able to get through it yet. So they put it on pause. They wait it out, and they're like, all right, well, now let's get it done. And it might be something as simple as guaranteed money. The amount of guaranteed money for Saquon Barkley. The amount of guaranteed money for a Josh Jacobs. And I feel like that's where both of it is for both players. I feel like they both want to get a deal done with their respective teams, but it's just 1 or 2 things that have to be hashed out before they agree to a deal. That's really all it is. I think it's going to get done regardless.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely going to stay with the Giants unless we, for some unknown crazy reason, something breaks down so badly that they just can't get anything done. But it doesn't normally happen like that. Usually they're going to work it out in the end, and it's going to probably take until like right when it's the deadline to sign a tag. That's when maybe 24 to 48 hours before that happens. That's when you start to notice both sides be like, we're running out of time. Hey, guys, let's get this thing done. Let's get back into the meeting room, and we're going to hash it out. Much like the Giants did with Daniel. Yeah. You know what I mean? And how that was like so last second. Yeah. Like right before the window closed, and they had to tag someone to keep Barkley and him. But they're like, let's get the deal done with Daniel Jones. I think we can get it done. Boom. They get it done hours before the deadline and then tag Barkley. So I feel like the same kind of thing is going to happen when we get close to that tag deadline when they have to officially sign it.
Right.
And that's kind of when it's going to light a fire between both sides.
Yeah, and that's how they had to feel it out, because Daniel Jones was going to kind of go after him for money too. I mean, it would have been detrimental a bit to him to obtain Saquon Barkley still. So he signs a deal that's, again, really incentive based too. Again, still friendly for the franchise,
right?
To where they could boom all of a sudden drop the tag on Barkley, and now we got some money to play with, and we can work a deal. What's Barkley looking? He said he doesn't want to be the highest paid, but his numbers now he's looking at are looking pretty, high still, like, upper echelon. Not exactly the highest though, but for me, again, what the Giants always have in their corner is kind of like, well, look at the value that's out there for these running backs. So what do you want? We'll give you the guaranteed money, like you said, in bonuses or whatever, and whatever they could do to make it less of a cap hit, but him still get paid and get his.
Right, and there's always like the signing bonus aspect. Yeah. Like if the guaranteed money can't get upped, or or who knows, maybe the Giants have a lower number in terms of guarantees that Barkley doesn't like. There's always that signing bonus thing, and John Mara, who's owned the Giants for quite some time, he's no stranger to these type of negotiations. He could also just come into the room and be like, you know what, all right, let's just get this done. What's it going to take? $10 million on signing bonus, $15 million on signing bonus. Okay, yeah, that sounds about good. All right, there you go. Here's a check. Yeah. Sign the damn contract. Yeah. There, it's done. Like, he could also come in and just kind of put a nail in the coffin here too. So there's always that aspect too, besides the actual contract itself, where if your owner has money, he can also kind of like, here, let me sway you a little bit. Let's get it done right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, Brian, thanks for the question. Absolutely. We talked about it in some other shows that we did. But again, if you happen to miss those, bring it up now. We don't care. It's all good.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the question. And if you can, do us a huge favor. Head over to YouTube. Hit subscribe onto our channel. Help us boost up our profile there over at YouTube. Make us crawl up the algorithm, so to speak. And then also hit that like button to let you guys know when we go live. And if you want to take us on the go and be in the know, well, you can do that as well. Go over anywhere you get your podcast. You can also follow us there as well.
Yep, absolutely. And tonight we're just talking about some of the Madden covers and like reminiscing a little bit about the days. And it's funny, kind of even jogged your memory and stuff too, about what the difference is and what some of the things that they added, because getting back into that, and now we're at 2002. Again, second player now on here, Dante Culpepper. Those Minnesota Vikings were really good every year and doing well. And this looks like they found their franchise quarterback here to get them back to greatness, back with their Purple People Eaters days or whatever. Randy Moss on the squad. We got to see a young guy like this, but I think the year before this and now this one, now you're talking PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. So now again, I think is what did it is like that jump with, Eddie George and on that one, all of a sudden the commercials too, like boom, they put the PlayStation 2 and the 360 version on it.
Well, you got to remember, there was only the box. Bang. It was Xbox. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Xbox. That's what it was.
It wasn't 360 yet.
Yep, it was
so
Xbox.
So it was just Xbox. So another gaming console into the realm of competition, along with PS2, along with, and there was even the beginnings of N64. But they weren't involved in sports, but it was another gaming console in the market.
You're right.
So when you have all these coming in, now there's competition coming around. Now, what are we doing? Like as a franchise of Madden, what do we do? Do we pick one console to go with to format the game for just one, or do we go with both? And soon enough, you see that. Like as soon as the market opened up, now you have two different kind of gaming consoles that can control this software. They're like, you know what? Let's split it up. Now we're gonna make a game that fits this console, and we're gonna make a game that fits the PS2 and the Xbox. Let's do it. Now we're gonna get more revenue, and this is when the game started to change in terms of video gaming. Is you had more players involved. You had other pathways to make revenue as a video game company in EA Sports. And again, this is also happening while they just keep climbing the charts in terms of sales every single year.
To where everybody's anticipating.
Right. And they're
coming out. Who's going to be on the cover?
And they're also upgrading the game.
Yes.
Every year. They're looking for new and innovative ways to make the game better, whether it be detail, graphics, motion. You start to started getting more enhanced now at this point.
Yeah, and more like you talk about the AI being, learning and things like that as it goes through the game. It wasn't so much that here, but you did start to see more attribute stats for things that weren't there before they would add on to it to get to it working properly.
Right, yeah.
And like I was getting to in the beginning, and the fact that when these came out and they marketed them in the commercial, they showed that version. Like I was fooled when I got the Eddie George because I bought that one, and because I saw the commercial, I'm like, whoa, look what they're doing with the graphics now again. You're like blown away. You're talking about original Xbox and PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And then I get it for like the PlayStation, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, this doesn't look like the commercial. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, there's a version for this and then Xbox. Stuff like
different
that.
ones.
Like, damn it, So again, you see Dante Culpepper on the newer ones. The graphics way different. You can actually kind of see the player likenesses.
Yeah,
again,
you can see the face more.
The helmets really not so blocky and choppy.
Yep.
Everything's smoother, sleeker, shining when around the helmets from the lights. And
the
things
sunlight
like
is the lighting, the sunlight. You know what I mean? You start to notice those things come into play now more often.
Absolutely.
And then don't
it
forget,
seemed like high
you know
def.
what? Also, this reminds me of is the blimp. Remember the blimp? They used to show up at halftime or whatever, and it would show the score as it went across the sky.
Yep.
That was another little detail that they added that kind of was like, oh, that is kind of cool, and it would just announce the score between both teams. So little things like that you started to pick up on as a fan, as a person that played the video game, that you're like, yo, that's cool. You know what I mean?
And in these ones, you're talking about franchise mode.
Yep.
Winning the Super Bowl, what shows going on during the Super Bowl when you win, and then you go visit the president maybe or something like that.
If you win the Super Bowl,
fanfare and stuff
right.
like that, and you'll and then the fact that you'll see Madden himself picturized into the game too, doing the halftime show visually.
Yeah,
what I mean, and things like that, adding that type of extra stuff. So let's move on to the next one again. 2003. Marshall Faulk now again. This is a great year for him. This is where the greatest show on turf was big. Again, going to multiple Super Bowls. This is just about when Tom Brady comes into the picture, Yeah. And and Kurt Warner's big here and stuff, but Marshall Faulk, Hall of Famer now. I mean, this is what we could do. Look at some of these Madden covers now and say, all right, what did it happen of their career now from being on Madden? You know what I'm saying? Eddie George and Dante Culpepper. They're nowhere to be found right now.
Especially now.
I'm just saying. But they were never made it to the Hall of Fame. Now, Marshall Faulk, you've seen him on television and things like that. He's gotten to be a bigger name. And
this is when it became a bigger deal, like the whole so-called Madden curse that happened with Eddie George after that year. He got hurt, missed the whole season. Dante Culpepper just played terrible. Yeah. Honestly, like he was a shell of himself as a quarterback. And mind you, he was considered one of the best quarterbacks at the time. Obviously, he had some help with Randy Moss, another Hall of Fame type of player. But still, he was so dynamic.
He was tall,
he
big,
was a
and just
gigantic quarterback. The first quarterback that was that big that played that well. Yeah. Like cannon for an arm, deadly accurate. He was like a gigantic refrigerator as a quarterback, but had some movement too. Wasn't the fastest guy, but had some speed for his size. So that's when you started to notice where a quarterback like him, if he got into trouble, you started to see his mobility come into factor. And it was frowned upon when quarterbacks would take off then. You know what I mean? But hey, would you take a sack or would you take a 5-yard gain? I think they were okay with that. You know what I mean? And as good as Culpepper was, after that year, again, played very terrible, and everyone's like, what's going on? That's when you started to hear these, like, at the time, they were like, people were like, oh, let's point the blame at Madden because they were on the cover. And they started to create this whole stigma about the Madden game. If you were on the cover, most likely either that year or the year after, you were either going to have an injury or you were going to just play terrible. And it started to pick up steam then.
Yep, absolutely. And again, Game changing franchise mode
Yes.
is more in depth
So
now.
cool.
So you can do scouting
So
and things
cool.
like that.
Yes.
The graphics were better. I mean, totally turn around here, and this is where they really start to do the major type of updates and upgrades to this game to make it more realistic. And this is where they really push that EA Sports. It's in the game, and they try to do it every year here.
Yep. And that was their phrase, their go-to phrase then. Yeah.
And now you see the names and the teams that light up in here. Now you've got
A lot of people start to recognize players now.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, absolutely. You got Michael Vick here. Again, the old lefty here. And he came onto the scene too, and this is what's big about this cover is left-handed black quarterback that ran a lot. It wasn't very accurate at this time. I think he was more accurate when he eventually played with the Eagles, but he was mainly known for his strong arm, but then also being able to run around. And he kept dishing it to Algie Crumpler, the tight end, all the time because they really didn't have a lot of star
Right.
receivers. They had Andre Rison, I think, at one point.
Andre Bad Moon Rison.
And Deion Sanders played for them, on defense,
Yep. At
Imagine
one
that.
point.
People don't even know that.
At one
There's
point,
some
yeah,
things,
and that's actually where Deion started his career.
Started his career.
As Atlanta Falcons drafted him, and boy, did that pay off.
Yeah.
But here we go, Michael Vick.
He was different, changed the game.
And Michael Vick was the very first mobile quarterback. Like, he was the guy that really kind of opened everybody's eyes as offensive coordinators and coaches were like, man, is he fast. He's a quarterback, but holy smokes, he's like the fastest dude in the NFL at the time.
Yeah.
And he would make plays happen with just his feet. People are dropping back, and it was uncanny for this to happen. Guys didn't play quarterback that were that fast. And he could take a ball, and if he wasn't comfortable enough or didn't see the guy come open, he would just take off. He'd run 15, 20, sometimes all the way to the house.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, what? He changed the game as a quarterback.
Yep.
Now people are envisioning who's the next Michael Vick, because we want to get our hands on that guy.
Right.
Because now, yes, he can throw. He had a cannon for an arm. And he was deadly accurate for short to intermediate passes, like passes that were simple, like crossing routes and hitches and that sort of thing. Was accurate there. But what really handicapped Michael Vick is the deep ball. Anything deep, he would miss by a mile. You know what I mean? Once in a while, he'd make a play, you know what I mean? Because the guy was either so wide open and didn't have to thread it, or you know what I mean? Or he just had a good throw, but it wasn't consistent. And that's where he really struggled. And then this is where he just kind of opened up the eyes for everybody. And it was just kind of like, as a fan, and you watched if you had the luxury to watch him play, it was like, man, he can't throw a deep ball, but wow, nobody can catch him if he has a free run. So, I mean, this is kind of where the game of football took a step in evolution in terms of gameplay as the position at quarterback.
Yeah, and the fact that they what you said changed the game. They changed Madden. You can actually drop your cursor down and run with the quarterback
Right.
now. They put that in the
Right.
game because he had changed the game so much. And
Yep.
you got to think, again, Madden always reacts the year after what this quarterback did. They put him on there. So they got to see it, and they're like, whoa, we could do this. So then they changed the game the way it's played.
Yeah, now
So
you're able to
now
take
you
off
can
and
actually
run.
take off and run with
Yeah.
it. You weren't able to do that really before, because even when you looked at those quarterbacks, they were your Kurt Warners, your Dante Culpeppers, which he was mainly a pocket passer, and he was a little
Right.
mobile, like you said,
Right.
but they
George Brett.
were spread out in spreads and throw it.
Rick Meyer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. Mark Rippon and things like that. You know what I mean? Come on. And so this is what you had.
Right.
And so this changed it all for him. And to bring up a note about this is when ESPN was putting out games when 2K, they were joined with 2K,
Right.
NFL Primetime, blah, blah, blah. But
Right.
2004 was when they started to build ground.
Yep.
And then lo and behold, in 2005, John Madden came out, and they put actually a defensive player on the cover here in Ray Lewis
For the first time.
first time.
Yeah, defensive player and amazing defense then. Baltimore Ravens, they had the best defense, hands down, and it started with Ray Lewis as the captain of the defense. I mean, they had so much talent. You think of Ed Reed, like legend, Hall of Fame safety, Chris McAllister at corner, shutdown corner. Didn't get a whole lot of praise when he was playing, but my God, was he amazing. And it was just like you had all these other guys surrounding Haloti Nada at D tackle for them, was a guy that you just could not move. He was like the first gigantic, massive man that they plugged in the middle, and it's like he'd take two guys on and sometimes would make sacks. The two guys couldn't stop him. Like, this defense was so ridiculous in every position that they didn't have a weakness. And then they were like, you know what? One guy that we got to have, because obviously you think of entertainment value, you think of tenacity and intensity that Ray Lewis brought to the football field, and smarts. Like, they're like, all right, it's hands down. It's got to be Ray Lewis. We got to put him on our first time we're going to have a defensive player. It's got to be Ray Lewis.
He was
put him out there.
with that.
And in 2005, you start to notice intricate things. You started to notice, like, the scouting got better. Yeah. It improved, and you're like, all right, this is kind of cool. I know it wasn't for everybody. I know some people didn't like scouting, and they kind of skipped that aspect of it. But for some of us, like me, like, I loved it. I love to see, like, little details on maybe upcoming players for the draft, that if I liked a player's attribute for speed or something over anything else, I could take him, at a certain pick. So game, once again, is evolutionizing. It's getting better. And 2K, like we mentioned before, now they partner with ESPN. And that's kind of like that merge right there is something that 2K needed to rival or even compete against EA Sports and Madden, because they were the new kid on the block. They're like, we need something to kind of drive us and to get noticed. And like, ESPN was humongous. It was like the wide world of sports, and everybody tuned in every evening after work. Everybody would tune in and watch ESPN. And there was some characters on that, some original OGs that kind of really helped catapult ESPN to what it is today.
Well, the thing is with that game too, when you talk about the 2K, what made it different is they stepped into they really embraced the being a player. Because that's what they did. When you went into the menu, you acted like you were a player. They got you set up in a profile. You had your own apartment. And whatever you did in the game and stuff like that, you could trick out your apartment, buy new, like a pool table, whatever, all this cool things like that. Yeah. And for me, halftime highlights. Right. Before Madden would do, they're like, hey, this is a score, this is what's going down, the team's got to do better, blah, blah, blah. Let's get back into it. They would show reels, like highlight videos of what you did during the game. I thought that was awesome because it was so cool, like a real halftime show.
Yeah, I was going to get to that, but what I was going to say is, like, they had to add something different than just play football. And that's when I was going to get to is where they had to create that apartment setting. You can upgrade things. You can change things, customize your apartment. And then you had your player, and it was kind of a new and exciting thing to do, and not just, oh, I'm just going to play a game. It's like, I'm going to play a game, and then based on how much money I get, I can create a whole new, I can customize this. I want white kitchen or something like that. Or you can even train your player. Yeah. You started to notice this in Madden. I don't remember when Madden started doing it either, but that was another aspect is you could upgrade your player, like the speed you can upgrade, the strength, the vision, whatever it was.
Even back in 96, you could do that when you did a creative player.
Okay.
It was button smashing. Like, I had to sprint. You have to go like A and B and B and B, and they're like, oh.
And then they also brought in that aspect of halftime highlights. Because they were linked with ESPN, it brought something completely different to the video game world, where it was like, yeah, it's a sport, but now guess what? We're going to have Chris Berman, the legend of ESPN, do the highlights of your game, and it actually showed real video game clips of your touchdown, or a throw for a touchdown, or a run, or whatever it was, or a sack. And it was brief, but it was so amazing when you first saw it. You're like, no way, this actually happened in my game. I did that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It had a whole new level of excitement. So, and that's what 2K needed. They needed something different to set themselves apart and to be able to compete against a juggernaut like Madden.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was only $20 brand new, and it's surprising.
Yes.
Like, are you serious? $20?
Awesome.
You can't
it was
get it.
So cool.
And one thing though about the Madden again being focused on defense and Ray Lewis, and this is what they do. Like I told you with the Mike Vick, so they changed it so now you can scramble with a quarterback.
Yep.
Defense. What happened? People got to see guys like Ray Lewis, like, wow, defense matters. Look at this guy.
Right.
Enter the hit stick.
Yes.
Hit stick arrives 2005 here.
Yep.
And it revolutionized it all. Everybody loves the hit stick now because that big hit, bang, knock the ball loose. Whatever you could do to hit it, to knock it loose, to do things, and just it feels good to actually hit some dude, and stuff like that.
And then also
before it was just kind of like, bleh.
Right, to piggyback on the defensive idea, also is when you started to see where you couldn't really tell the move as a defensive lineman, but you had to tap a button. Yeah. You had to tap a button to try to get by an offensive lineman now. It added a different element, like, I don't have to just run into him or try to run around him. Now I can run up to him, and if I hit this button and time it just right, I'll either get by him or eventually I'll get by him. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that Madden started to kind of, ascend and get better at.
Right, and in the later versions, too, to bring up even the fact of physics with defense and stuff, no more just jump and do this. Jump like do a hurdle and swat. You can actually go for the pick, or you can go and do a swat.
Right.
It was a lot more different things you could do with the buttons and things.
Yes. Yes.
But here we go.
This is where in this era, this portion of Madden is when you started to get really critical about Madden, because now it's been around for a while. They did a lot of upgrades. They advanced a lot of things, but now it's like you're starting as a football fan or of a gamer, you're starting to notice things that really irritate you about the game. You know what I mean? Like I remember when a corner was running with your receiver, and the ball you're throwing, you're like, oh, that looks kind of high. Maybe my receiver has a chance. But your receivers wouldn't leap that yet. They wouldn't jump up and catch the ball. So they're running down there, and then the corner's right next to you, and the corner just does this. He just puts his hand up, and the ball just falls down. You're like, wait, what? And that would drive you nuts. You're like, no, he was open. I had him. No, but it didn't matter. Like, so you started to notice little things as the game gained popularity, as the game gained more knowledgeable fans and gamers that could really nitpick certain aspects of the game. This is when you started to notice different things. You're like, well, I didn't like this about this. And then you started to let's email EA Sports and complain about this play or this thing that's happening all the time, a glitch or whatever, see if they can fix it.
Mm-hmm. And this is where, like you said, some of the complaints here and there. Now here comes Madden 06 here, and you have Donovan McNabb again, who jumped on the scene too again. Playing really well with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like you saw, the cover of the Madden or the ESPN game had T.O. This is when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, right prior. Yeah. They went to the Super Bowl in 2005. They were getting better with Andy Reid, and we're making the playoffs and making it just about to the Super Bowl, for consecutive years. And couldn't get it done. But there it is, Donovan McNabb. But this is where they kind of tried to change the game again to what could we do in this one? They noticed that in the game too, that if the quarterback isn't exactly looking at the player at a certain time or whatever, he isn't able to turn around and get that ball if they're not connecting. So they thought it was a great idea to come up with the vision cone.
Right.
So and also it changed things because now competitive gaming is getting bigger amongst Madden.
Right.
Madden was gaining ground on the competitive online gaming type of thing, and there's tournaments, and this helped even with that cone. You can get it here and there and whatever. If your quarterback isn't really looking at that area in real life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
How can he make that throw to go over there?
Yep.
So they decided to add the cone, and I hated it. You know what I mean? It was just dumb because you had to do other things with get your stick over there or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't play it,
Right. And meanwhile, during that, I get what they were trying to go for, is to be able to kind of look the defensive backs off or linebackers off, get them out of position, and then maybe you come back and you can throw it to your guy and it'd be like a more wide open play.
Right.
I get that aspect that they were trying to go for, but it made the game a lot more difficult to play because not only did you have to pay attention to the rush, but also you're playing with your vision, and then before you know it, you might be so in tune of with your vision and not pay attention to rush, and you get sacked, and you're like, God damn it. And then the next time you're like, I'm paying attention to the rush, but then you're not paying attention to where you're looking, and you're like, oh, that guy's open, I'm going to throw it to him, but it's a bad pass because you weren't looking there. So I understand what they're trying to get and gain another advancement in football and in gaming and what have you, but I feel like it fell well short of what they were going for. And some people were good at it. Some people got good at it. I didn't get good at it. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. But yeah, I think it became so much more of a pain in the neck for people and they weren't enjoying it anymore. That's when the game kind of took a lot of criticism, and people just either they were like, I'm not getting Madden again. If this is how it's going to be, I'm done. And they heard a lot of complaints, and they were like, well, this isn't going the way we planned, so maybe we need to take that out.
Yeah, and that's when they also started the helmet cam, like first person view.
Yes, yeah, that's right. That's right.
A lot of people didn't like that as well. It's because sometimes with first person, and it happens even with first person shooters and things like that, because they try and mimic what
you actually see,
view would be
peripheral.
Yeah. But truly, you can't do that because us, when we're looking, we have the peripheral vision right there. We can actually see around there than just what's here. So to literally try to copy it, you can't, because you still would have to turn your head to do this. So if I'm a quarterback and I'm going over here, I could just go like that quick. And with the game, you have to actually turn your head that way. And it just didn't work right when they eliminated that pretty quickly.
And that's the thing, too, is like, I feel like they didn't, I don't know, maybe they tested it and thought it was good enough.
Well, it's because they were doing it in games. They were showing camera view, the helmet cam, which was different for the game.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're trying to evolutionize the game on television, but like, hey, now we're actually doing helmet cam and this and more things to make the game better on television. Right. So they're trying to mimic that same type of look.
Trying to mimic it, but here's the thing is when you're looking 3D versus flat screen, you can't have blinders. And I feel like that's what that game was doing, is it had blinders. So I understand they wanted to get you the feeling that you're in the helmet, but I think they tried to do it too much. Like it was like this. So like I can see inside the helmet. Well, you don't really do that. It should be more like this, where you can see actually out the sides, but you still get the feeling like you're in a helmet. I feel like that's what they missed on that.
Right.
As they tried to make the helmet too much of a part of the vision, instead of making it more realistic, I guess, going forward. And who knows, maybe it would have been better, maybe not. But I feel like that's something that a minor detail that they missed out on.
Absolutely. Next, we got Madden 07, and Sean Alexander, again, the curse comes back on this one, because everybody says right here, Sean Alexander, he was going for a title like consecutive years. I think this is when I was doing fantasy football, and again, I had Sean Alexander.
Oh, you had him that year?
And I was making it to the Super Bowl again,
on his back.
Yeah, on his back.
And that's the other thing too, is like, you got to remember, I don't know if he still holds it, but he was one of the very, very few rare running backs.
There he is right there.
That actually had five rushing touchdowns in a game, in just a single game. That's unheard of. And he was the first to do it. I mean, I don't know if that record still holds right now, but oh my God, like Sean Alexander in his prime was absolutely amazing. Especially, I mean, for the Seattle Seahawks, for them to be able to do what they were doing in that era, in that time. Alexander was running through tackles. He was like a bigger running back too, but had speed on top of it all. It was like unlike anything you would ever see at that time, at that position. So for Alexander to do what he did, tremendous. He earned the right to be on the cover, but then sadly, after that cover spot, again, the curse strikes again. He ends up getting injured and done for the year. And when he returned, was never the same. Once again,
Alvin Kamara broke it in 2020.
Oh, there you go.
With 6.
He had 6.
6.
Wait, all rushing though?
Yes, all rushing.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Against the Vikings on December 25th.
Oh,
Christmas.
Poor Vikings.
Merry Christmas, everybody. And most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Oh, in his career. In his career is Cam Newton. In 2011, 2021.
No one cares.
All right, so nobody cares about that. Soon to be Albany Empire quarterback.
Yeah, right. But that, I mean, it's incredible, like what he was able to do. So that was in 07.
Yeah.
And then again, we have a new face in 08. A new face.
Absolutely, and it is Vince Young right here again. You're seeing
Another Titan.
I'm sorry even to bring it up again too, but I think it is something that is, I think, different for things. And it was an era you'd see a lot of the black quarterbacks, running backs, stuff like that out here on the cover again because they're thrown out there. You're seeing more of it because when we were even kids, I mean, it was a big thing that Doug Williams was even a black dude playing quarterback. You're like, wow,
it was a big deal, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you're seeing now more of those players wanting to play quarterback.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But they're even a little different. Vince Young, again, had a little bit of legs on it. He could get a little bit mobile.
Oh, he
here
was
and there.
fast. He was
You know
fast.
what I mean? And he was known for mainly his college career. I mean, what a college career he had. So coming in a quarterback into the NFL, a lot of big shoes to fill, kind of, I guess.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
expectations.
Oh, yeah.
And it started off like, okay, this could be the guy here. Tennessee Titans again. Last time they were here, they did it with Steve McNair and stuff like that. So he could maybe bring him back to the promised land. And it just Madden curse maybe kicks in again. This is what we were talking about. Consecutive years with the Madden curse.
Yeah, Vince Young was like the first, the first black quarterback, though, that did everything well. Like you think about him in college in Texas for the Longhorns. He was unstoppable. Like he had a cannon for an arm. He was deadly accurate in all throws, short, medium, deep, and he had legs. Very tall dude, good size, and he could run like the wind. So he just had everything going for him. And then when he gets drafted, people are like, "Oh my God, we got Vince Young. We're going to do some damage in the NFL now. Now we're going to be a competitive team." And Vince Young had a decent rookie career because, I mean, let's face it, as a rookie quarterback coming in, I don't care what color you were.
Yeah.
You weren't doing that well. It was an advancement. Just like it is now, it's a big step to go from college to pro. And Vince Young came in. He did admirably well as a rookie. I think better than most in his first year. But nonetheless, he gets that cover. He gets injured. Major injury, too. Like almost kind of like career ending. Comes back. Isn't the same guy. Can't really run. He's bounced around on a couple different teams. And it was like, wow. Like his career kind of just fell off because of the injury. And it hindered him the rest of his career. So again, we talk about the Madden curse, and sometimes we joke about it and say, yeah, whatever. Someone started that. But it seems to be that every time just about an athlete gets on the cover, something bad happens, whether it be injury related or performance.
Absolutely. And then this is when even they start to evolutionize the game again, getting better with franchise mode, but then also the online playing, and then getting, like, what was it, coins or something like that in the cards,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, when you
something
started
like that, you get the coins and open the deck
Currency.
of cards. The currency.
Digital currency.
And like the Madden like Ultimate Team starts to kick
Yes.
in here, and you've got Brett Favre here now on the cover, the legend. And
Some people like to call him Brett Favre.
Favre,
Because of the way it's spelled.
Yeah,
It screwed up a lot of
and
people.
this was what made Madden even super, super famous too. With Brett Favre, I love Brett Favre. He just would love doing the Brett Favre thing.
That's right.
He loved him, just a gunslinger type of deal or whatever. But they started changing with the Madden Ultimate Team, getting cards, something different. So now you could feel like you could build almost like not just franchise mode, but do it online against other players, and adding those little microtransactions in there to try and get better players.
And this was also this is like when you started to notice that the physical evolution, the movement skills were even better.
Yeah.
When you started to really they started to get it right. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just started to get better. And even like graphic wise, graphics would change I don't know, like every 5 years from this standpoint is like where they would start to increase, like, okay, well, the lighting isn't right, so let's fix that in the next game. Or the graphics got to be in more detail. They got to be better. We got to be able to know that that's Brett Favre.
Yeah.
We
Not
got to
just a
see his
number.
face.
Yeah.
And not, so there were those aspects of the game that they started to really kind of hone in. And in 09, again, there are little things they would get better at. And the same thing could be said for 2K. is with ESPN, as they were evolutionizing that part of the game. So it was funny because you play both games and you have two different experiences because the games weren't they weren't the same, but they were different in a good way. Like they both brought a little bit different, aspect to football. And it's also when you started to notice too that ESPN and TK team up was also getting NFL rights now. They were also now to have more likeness in that aspect too. So here's the NFL also broadening their horizons, not just with Madden, but also going into 2K. So now we're here in 09, and we've gotten the game better. How much farther can Madden go? Like, this could be part of the conversation where at this point in time, like, man, we've had a great run, guys. We've been crushing milestones in terms of sales and everything. How much longer can we go? And what else can we change to make it better?
Yeah, it was a really good game. I think they did a lot of stuff well. Again, there was the little things that we noticed with the 10 yards down the field. The linebacker would do its thing.
Annoying. So annoying.
Yeah, but and one thing you only would complain sometimes with some of these guys is receivers still running routes and not stopping for the ball, and that later on that starts to change as we go through it all.
That's right.
And brings in now Madden 2010, and this is the first one that shows two players on the cover down here too. It's almost kind of like they weren't sure what to do.
Couldn't make their minds up.
Again, they're like, well, there's two great real players out here, and some good teams. Because what did they played in a Super Bowl together. That was their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That was the year they went to the Super Bowl and played each other.
Yeah, believe it or not, folks, the Cardinals made a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Cardinals had it too until that pick six in the end
before
zone.
halftime.
That changed it.
Before
right there.
halftime, that changed everything.
Yep.
And that was so ridiculous too. And I remember there was that particular play. Larry Fitzgerald wanted a penalty thrown.
Yep.
Because I saw it clear as day. I'm just saying what I saw, and this is what happened. Is Larry Fitzgerald wanted a penalty thrown. One of the referees weren't paying attention on the sideline. And one of the Steelers, not on purpose, I don't think, but was stepped in on the white in the way when you're not supposed to be on that white, was watching it was a linebacker, I think, that ended up running it all the way back.
It was James Harrison.
Oh, it was Harrison?
Yeah, it was Harrison.
It was James Harrison.
Yep.
So he's running it down the sideline. So obviously when his teammates step out on the white and they're looking down the field and watching him run into the end zone, but in doing so, got in the way of Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald was still going to catch it. He was going to catch him. Obviously, Fitzgerald way faster. So, but he had to stop his momentum and get around. He almost ran into him, basically. And then complained after Harrison runs in the end zone. They called a touchdown, and Harrison and Fitzgerald was like, "Yo, where's the penalty? He was in the way. He was in the field of play."
Yeah,
and couldn't get anybody to either look at it,
which
like
happens
instant
a lot with the
replay,
Steelers, including Mike Tomlin,
or couldn't get any of the referees to pay attention.
Yeah,
and I watched it happen, and even then, they looked at it. You know what I mean? The commentators that were looking at it like, oh, look at what happened here. Larry Fitzgerald, running down the sideline, and then the Steeler was in the way, and they didn't make too big of a deal about it, but still, that was a critical moment in the game that could have changed everything for the Cardinals.
Yep.
If that penalty got called like it should have been called, that touchdown gets taken away. It's the end. It's halftime, and it is what it is. And then who knows? Yeah, the Cardinals were winning going into halftime.
Well, yep.
And if they didn't turn that ball over and that play didn't happen, who knows? Maybe we could be talking about the Cardinals as Super Bowl champions.
Absolutely. But again, it's different thing. Finally, two different players on Super Bowl contenders on the cover together.
Yeah,
so it's something
they were
different. They were trying to something different. And I think you brought up even before, when you look at it graphically, it's kind of different splatter type of, weird type of paint and things like that.
This is when you started to notice.
And it's more like not even like a real photo. It was almost like almost illustrated kind of too. When you look at the photo ahead of time, or I mean up in person rather, it doesn't look like, it's almost like it's really painted. It doesn't really look like it's an actual real true photo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they were, but this is when you started to see graphic design take place. Yeah. Is when Madden had better graphic designers. There was more advancement in software. They were able to do more things with designs and patterns and shapes, and you see splatter there. So but I still to this day do not understand why they have two players from different teams on that, and they couldn't make up their minds who to give it to. Usually it goes to the Super Bowl winner. And it's usually one of the players from the Super Bowl winner get the cover. And that's that was kind of like a tradition, so to speak. But this is the first time when they went away from that completely and said, all right, we're going to pick one player from each team in the Super Bowl. And see how that plays out. I didn't like it.
A wide receiver and a safety too.
Yeah,
think about that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? All right, next comes up Madden 11, and I think maybe Joe, he's played a lot more Madden since this, but this is one that him and I would do franchise mode to death. But we kind of felt like this was the game that probably
the best one
all together. It had everything.
The best one.
The scouting, everything for the franchise mode, especially in drafting some of the players. You know what I mean? To be able to do, and just even mistakes. Yes, even the linebacker still kind of did their thing or whatever, but there weren't as many glitches and things and inconsistencies, like you say. And that's the funny thing is as we notice with Madden, as technology goes, and I think the pressure to try and change, evolve, but then get the game out, things that they try and do, you're seeing more, you see it online, look all over YouTube, so the different glitches and things that the games have wrong with them. The older ones, you didn't find anything that was kind of weird. Yes, some plays, you find plays that worked well all the time, you know, and everybody can do that.
You could pick like 3 or 4 plays that you liked, that always seemed to work no matter what.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That always worked. And it's like, and this is kind of too, you talk about the competitive aspect of Madden, and it played into the competitive realm where guys would fall in love with like a crossing route or a certain play where it was like a drag route where I know this guy's going to be open all the time. So if I can't throw it deep down the field, then I'm going to jump it off to this guy and get 5 to 10 yards. You know what I mean? Like, there was that aspect of it too, and people would literally use just those 3 or 4 plays to gain a competitive edge against the AI on defense, or even if somebody was controlling a player, they would say, okay, well, if he's going to cover him, I'll just throw it to this guy. You know what I mean? It always seemed to work. So, but I think that game, that Madden right there, Madden 11 was the best one.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's when the scouting part got so much more advanced, so much better. And you know as well, as like we played this game together and we slayed it on draft day. Like we would, was it a point system?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Was it
a point system? And then they would even give a write-up if you did
No, it was you could tag the player to scout.
Yeah.
And then up to 5 weeks.
Right.
In 5 weeks, you would have a full report on that player. And you had limited amounts of guys that you could tag, basically, to be scouted.
Right.
So we would always wait 4 weeks or 5 weeks, go back, like, okay, we got this guy fully scouted. Let's uncheck these guys, go check some other guys that we're interested in. And then, boom, by the end of the season, we had a laundry list of players. And then they even had write-ups.
Yeah, write-ups.
On each player, like little tiny descriptions about his speed or strength or whatever. Is he blockable, unblockable, what have you? And that's when you started to get all that information plus the attributes.
And they even had the attribute cone. Remember how it was split up in a circle and it went this way or that way? What it might have been, speed.
It's the GONs that they used to use, just like they use them in the combine now.
Yeah,
but they also gave you top 3 attributes for each one.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and that's if they were fully scouted. So that was a huge advancement in the scouting part. And honestly, it hasn't been any better since. Unfortunately, that was the best time to be able to scout and draft the right guys. We killed it. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody out there, if they were playing now, if they were playing Madden 11 right now, they wouldn't even touch us with our drafted team. We drafted so much that we had all just drafted players. we didn't have any names anymore.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I mean. End up changing
It
and
was
going
awesome.
throughout your franchise, after the other players retired and things.
Right.
But it was cool. It was definitely cool. And then even working the contracts. And
Yes.
the money situation.
Yep, money situation.
You know what I mean?
That's
you
when you start
realize
to-
you could win without getting like your Eli Mannings at that point, which was the highest paid
Yeah,
quarterback
yeah.
and player in the NFL with some of them. You know
'Cause
what I mean?
yeah, and that's when you started to play with more of the cap.
Yes, the
You had
cap.
to get them under contract. But the funny thing is then it's like you could try to re-sign them more than once. There wasn't a limitation there. But you also, there wasn't a schematic to where you'd be like, oh, well, he likes this part of the contract or not this, like it is today.
Yeah. Well, I'll get back to you in a few days, and you're waiting. You're like, oh no, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
What?
Wait
Come
a
on,
second.
bro. Really?
We won a Super Bowl, bro.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then, again, that's around that time. I don't think Drew Brees really dropped off, so there wasn't really
No,
a
he was
curse
still-
on
he
that
was
one.
still
And that's what
awesome.
I mean.
He
That's
was
when they
still
just
awesome.
went and surprised Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. Probably the best
He
man.
might have.
I think.
I
of
mean,
all time.
he might have had a slight down year that year, but and I think maybe his shoulder started to bother him.
Yeah.
Not get real super injured, but I
Right.
think he still had like
Yeah,
something
a little bit,
wrong
like
a little
down
bit
year.
there. But then it brings you into Madden 12 where we had the human rhino.
Yeah.
You know, Peyton Hillis. Does anybody remember Peyton Hillis? I mean, because this guy was like the 1 year wonder in NFL football. Now, was originally a fullback, you know, played his part, did his deal, and then got an opportunity to play running back. And nobody, and I mean nobody, ever envisioned a fullback converting to a running back and literally running through the league. This dude single-handedly almost with the Browns went through defenses like butter. Like nobody could stop this guy. This guy was running not only through tackles, he was running through 2-3 guys and still running, still on his feet. It was ridiculous. You haven't seen this before.
Yeah.
And he had such an amazing season that a fullback, converted running back, gets the Madden cover the next year, ran over 2,000 yards. He was you talk about red zone touchdowns. This guy, if he was getting the ball, he's in. It was automatic. You could not stop this guy. And some people kind of referred him to the juggernaut.
Yeah.
Because he would just seem like that guy, burly guy, not top end speed, but had enough speed to run and would run through people. And it was amazing. And even in Madden 12, you started to notice little tiny details that they started to get better at.
Yeah, with details and things like that. And then, again, the curse gets back in because, again, after that, we didn't hear it from Peyton Hillis. Again, he went and became a New York Giant and did nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Never was the same again. And it was weird, though, right? Like, he went from being top of the food chain in terms of running back to, like, he forgot how to be tough.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was
don't
just
get
weird.
it. Yeah, people figured it out. I guess I don't know. All right, so then moving into now Madden 13, you've got Calvin Johnson on the cover now. Again, graphically,
Guys,
get crazy. You know,
Look at what's on there.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what's on there.
Yep.
Xbox 360.
Yep.
You know,
new
this is
era.
when the 360 new
Yep.
era came in. New consoles were being developed. PS3.
And
right?
PS3 too as well. Yes.
PS3 was in here.
Yep.
And
And the Kinect sensor.
the Kinect sensor would added a new element to gaming. You know what I mean? This is something too. Like we talked about consoles competing against each other. They were also trying to figure out new innovative ways to increase their consoles, upgrade their consoles. So this was another element to it. And then in Madden 13, Calvin Johnson, I mean, a lot of people now, I would feel comfortable for now moving forward. You've heard of Calvin Johnson, whether you have seen him play or not, but you have heard of him. Yes. One of the best all-time receivers in the game.
Yep.
Guy was absolutely a freak. Coming out of Georgia Tech, 6'5", 235, I think it was his weight coming out as a rookie, but uncanny speed. This guy had huge size and ran a 4.4, I think? Something crazy. No, was it a 4.25? It might have been super fast like that. Like he was like ridiculous speed for his size. And just took over the league. Like, how could he?
Yeah,
not?
and got the nickname Megatron.
Oh.
I mean, so that's how intimidating he was to people. If you don't know
Absolutely.
Megatron, Transformers universe, he's the bad guy, like ultimate bad guy dude, of all of them. Powerful and doing something with nothing there in Detroit. You know what I mean? You end up having a guy like Matthew Stafford, which ended up being his probably best quarterback to throw to him, but a lot of other no-namers. For many years. And he was just a shining star out of that whole team, to do something.
Right.
And to give him the Madden cover, like, here, you deserve this at least, buddy. Sorry, but you're just still getting it done.
Oh, it's amazing. Look at that that Detroit Lions team. It wasn't very good. Like, they had Matt Stafford. They and that connection between him and Calvin Johnson was uncanny, but that's all they had.
Yep.
They didn't have really a defense. They didn't have anybody else on offense besides those two.
Yep.
They even had a terrible offensive line.
Yep.
So, but they were able to accomplish some pretty big milestones.
Yep. And as far as the
despite the
game, the
odds.
Connect, again, just the sensor didn't work very well with a lot of different games. It was new.
Yeah.
It was fresh. So a
Different.
lot of people weren't into it. It was a cool idea to try and go and throw the ball yourself.
Yeah.
But if it's not thrown right and then all of a sudden you get going the wrong way, people just get frustrated.
Yeah.
That's why we think, again, 11, the attack on the line, it's not the A, B, or whatever like that. You just got to beat the guy with the stick and stuff like that, left or right, whatever. Hit
And they were
stick.
spinning then.
Big
They were
factor.
doing. Then you had actual moves then too.
Moves
So
and doing things
you're
like
starting
that.
to know the progression now in Madden. Everything seems to be kind of focused in now. Like, all the aspects, all the movement is getting better, and then Calvin Johnson in that era and everything, that was like really special.
Yep.
Because there was a lot of great players even then that you were just excited to use. And sometimes people go out of their way and
again,
be like,
jersey modification too, where you're able to do.
yeah, jersey modification, colors and everything, and some throwbacks were being implemented.
Yep.
And if you didn't like one, you would just always choose the other that you liked.
Oh, yeah.
So it was pretty cool for sure.
Yep. And then move into the next one. It's the funny thing here, what I always questioned when it came out.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Why 25? You've been doing it
25th
consecutive
anniversary?
year. Yeah, well, why don't you just put that in the title somewhere? It says even here that it's better with the Connect here and stuff. But again, that ended
No,
up
it wasn't.
not doing
Liars.
very well. But go change your whole thing you've been doing that you've stuck with, and go from 2013, Madden 13 to Madden 25.
Yeah.
Not knowing that eventually you might still be making this game in 2025, maybe.
Right.
So
right.
what are we going to do next year?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Madden 25 again? Like,
No,
we've already had two. That area wasn't there before. So it says 1989 to 2014, 25 for 25th anniversary.
25th
We get it.
anniversary.
So out of that, they put Barry Sanders on there. Of course, Barry Sanders, Hall
One
of
of the
Fame,
greatest.
running backs.
Unbelievable.
If you haven't been able to see him play like we have,
Watch some highlights.
watch highlights. He's amazing.
Yeah,
You know
definitely. If you haven't had the chance to see Barry Sanders run, when I tell you a running back that was untackleable, if that's a word,
Yeah.
he's it. Like, some of his highlights were, it would amaze you. Like he could have 4 or 5 dudes surrounding him, and somehow he figures out a way to make everybody miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with this one, I think they started to change the franchise mode again. To make it weird. Gameplay was just like, I remember playing this game. I'm like,
Didn't like it.
I'm not really that impressed with this.
No,
You know what I mean? They could have did better, especially if it's 25th anniversary type of deal.
right. You're expecting,
Not a lot
if
to
it's the
remember
25th
about it.
anniversary, they're going to go all out. They're going to fix the bugs that they had before. They're going to improve it somehow, some way.
Yep.
And I feel like that one fell short.
Yep. And that leads us into 2015. Well, look, here we are, Joe. Just like that. It
Another
skips out
console.
of nowhere fast, too. Like, we just looked at a couple on the 360, and we're instantly in the Xbox One.
Yeah, you remember it was like when that conversion from 360 to Xbox One or PS3 to PS4, it was a 2-year difference.
Yeah.
Like, they started to spit consoles out more rapidly then. They were like, hey, let's get better graphics, better memory, more space. Let's improve everything and get it out there as fast as possible. So in 2 years' time, there was a new console coming out, and you're like, as a gamer, you're like, this is really cool, but how much is it going to cost? Because things weren't cheap anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So you're even
Madden
trying to think
15.
of the success on everything.
I mean, Richard Sherman on the cover, really?
Yeah,
Like,
well, it's
don't
just
get me
because
wrong.
again, we will get Super Bowl
Shutdown type
things
of
like that,
corner
and this
in his
is
prime.
the Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
They were dismantling teams. They could have won back-to-back Super Bowls if it wasn't for Russell Wilson making a terrible mistake in the end zone.
Well,
There's a few different things.
I blame the call.
The call
more
was
than
terrible
anything.
too. Yeah, because pass
Yeah.
interference. Come
Russell
on.
Wilson doesn't make the calls.
Yeah,
so
that's true too. I agree with that, and even the play call, like there's
Yeah.
a bunch of different things wrong.
Let's not
with
let's not
that
get
thing.
Tom Leiter upset if
But
he's
anyways,
watching.
with that, again, now you're seeing a corner right here on the cover.
Yep.
The Legion of Boom. So they're really trying to promote this. But look at the sleek look again. Madden 15, back to that. Xbox One showing it off.
The graphics are better here too for the cover.
You see the step.
You know what I mean,
up.
you see the
And
background
in
of the
game
stadium
as well. You really see a difference in the,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the graphics.
Yep.
On the newer gen console.
Yep, newer gen console, better graphics,
But
more
this is
sleek,
when they
smoother.
start to change again with the franchise mode again with the scouting and go to like the point system.
No,
Right?
don't like
Is it?
Individual
Yeah,
point
yeah.
system.
Yeah, the individual.
Individual. It
Yeah.
wasn't no longer where you could tag a player and scout him and get some good information on him. Now it was point based, where depending on how well you played week to week, you get so many points, and those points can be turned in to unlock an attribute.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh, I bought this attribute, now I know what he is. It was, you bought it once, you get, this is kind of what he could be. You bought it again. This is more accurate of what he could be. And then you bought it a third time to unlock the full, the more accurate version of it. So it's like you would run through digital coins like I remember
too much time on one player or two players when you can scout more.
I purposely did this. I remember holding onto my coins, not spending any of them on the players, and I went 4 or 5 weeks into the season. And then I go back, I'm like, all right, wow, I got thousands of coins. Cool. I'm like, bing, 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 unlock everything I possibly could. Now this is for one player. I spent all those coins on one player to unlock everything. To get a full scouting report. That's one player. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way I can scout. I got to pick one dude to scout them, or maybe two guys to scout them completely. Like, it ruined scouting, and it just took a nosedive at that point.
Yep.
So there, another one for people that had complaints. They definitely complain about the scouting part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that was probably the main a bad thing about these later versions of the game and stuff. And next we've got the Madden 16, Odell Beckham Jr., the one-handed three-finger catch against the Cowboys that made him famous.
What's funny about this cover too is, I'm sorry, but like, this is a terrible picture. Like, I get it, Odell catching it one-handed, but where's the three-finger catch? That's what this was inspired by.
Yeah.
You should have had that picture on here of the three-finger catch. Like, that was so impressive. Odell makes the cover. Amazing. He was a Giant, for a lot of people that don't know that. Yes, he got drafted by the Giants and was awesome when he was on the field, but often injured before the Giants departed from him. So, I mean, tremendous player. Another one that kind of changed the game, because we talk about how Michael Vick changed the game for Madden and for the NFL. As good as Odell was in his prime, I feel like he was a difference maker, obviously when he was healthy, but he was different than just a normal wide receiver. He wasn't normal. He was a guy that had the speed, the quickness, the catchability, that he could catch at any angle, any hand, whether it be two hands or one hand. He made some incredible catches that kind of inspired other pro athletes coming up at the receiver position. Like, hey, I want to mimic that. I want to get better at this and that and the other thing. So again, also added a different element in Madden now. Now you're looking at cinematic catches almost, where they were they were predetermined catches depending on where the ball was thrown and stuff. And how good your player was. He could make these boom, like dive backwards and make a good catch and bring it in and fall down, or jump up and catch it with two hands and then get hit and still hold on to it, or a diving catch and be able to catch it and haul it in and curl up. Like that's when you start to notice
Change
another
the game
advancement
again. Yep.
in Madden as well.
Absolutely, and that's what they did. They changed it to what the player was doing. That's just like we talked about with Michael Vick and all that stuff. Say, hey, everybody loves this one-handed catch stuff.
right.
We got to put it in the game.
We got to
now.
do it.
One other thing, too, if you look at the picture again here, it says all new fantasy draft, fantasy mode. So they added a new mode here so where you did your own fantasy draft for a team, not even just like, because before they had the cards, buy the pack of cards, Madden Ultimate Team. Now it changes to an actual fantasy mode where you can do your own fantasy draft. And now you've done even that with a bunch of other people where you guys just do your fantasy draft in a league across online and play, and you guys can all pick a team and play against each other and crazy stuff.
Right, your fantasy draft
online
is where
gaming getting bigger.
Where you just became the GM.
Yep.
And you're drafting out of the NFL pool.
Right.
Like, so any of your favorite players.
Just like fantasy football.
Like Odell and stuff. Yeah, exactly. And then you could draft whoever you wanted, create your team, and then use that team in the season, which made it pretty cool.
Yep, absolutely. Then, and again, you heard about voting all the time during that time, too. It was either going to be him or Rob Gronkowski. Odell got the nod. So then next year, we've got Rob Gronkowski again, part of the Patriots. Franchise dynasty, you know what I mean? They're winning every year, if not every other year.
A lot of winning going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Gronk, again, revolutionizing the tight end position again, too. Big time, Hall of Famer, things like that, too. But again, game staying stale, a lot of that same stuff we don't like about it. A lot more glitches again, things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
They had eventually fixed kind of that linebacker situation, but now, again, wide receivers catching and running out of bounds, not really the toe tap getting the thing exactly right.
Not yet.
One-handed catch, but then still go out of bounds. Like, oh, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
you know
they get one foot in, and because of their stride, they still go out because they didn't advance the game yet.
The route. Yeah. So things like that. Again, so it wasn't a real memorable game for me again, especially paying full price for a game. So again, for me, I ended up skipping some years again.
I would say this too, like, and let's talk about Odell real quick. Is after that year on the cover, guess what happened? Blew his knee out. You know what I mean? So, and then Gronkowski, what happened after that? His back, he needed surgery on his back again. So that kept him out for quite some time. So it's like, here we go. Now we're going into Madden 18, and we have none other than Tom motherfucking Brady.
Yep.
The guy that reincarnated the New England Patriots into a winning team.
Right.
A guy that was something that the fan base and the team needed so badly that now here he is, the man, the legend that is Tom Brady, in his winning ways, winning championships with Gronk, with the great Patriots defense that was there, and guys like Richard Seymour. I mean, they even had Junior Seau for a small amount of time, before he left the game
at the best time. But again,
and it's like, it's crazy. Like, this is it again. Madden 18, Xbox One. This is what they called the GOAT edition. So there was advancements in this. There was better graphics. There was.
They paid attention to the pocket passer type of deal down.
Right.
Because now you're getting Tom Brady vision. So then even with the achievements, it was like, can you stay in the pocket long, get that protection, and get visualize and get these things done?
Just like you said, too, achievements. That was another big thing for this game is now you're getting rewarded for better gameplay, like in the pocket. Now, this is where the quarterback could sense pressure for the first time. And you would see like it's almost like a wheel below your player. And if your quarterback sensed pressure, it would be yellow or red on one side, like say the right side. It would glow yellow or red. And you're like, if you moved away from that, then it goes away. You don't feel pressure. But maybe you get it again over here. Now you got to move your guy here. And then if you're getting in the front, you drop back farther and you're okay. So in this, it kind of taught you about feeling the pressure around the pocket, get away from the pressure, and then deliver the ball accurately as soon as you can. So like that was another little that was a great pickup by you because I didn't remember that until you mentioned it. But that was another little wrinkle that they threw in that kind of made it like, oh, okay, I'm Tom Brady. I got to do this. I got to move in the pocket. I got to get – and you would do that with every other quarterback. So
and if you talk about that, they brought in the fact that during the training modes, they trained you how to read the defenses.
Yes.
What's a cover two? What's this? When are they playing man? When a
Cover
guy comes
three,
up with this, this is the type of play that works for this because you see the guy comes on in and here. They told you that now in the training. So they're actually teaching you how the game of football actually works. Before, again, hey, if you like football, you just play it. Here's your thing. Here's your plays.
Yeah, you just
figure it out.
that's
You know, they're actually now trying to say even, hey, this is what you could notice. This will get your game better. And even when you go to play online, you know what to see now with some of these guys and what they're doing. And based on learning the game.
Right. And based on the defensive coverage, if you're reading it correctly, because that was the other thing.
Yes.
If you're reading it correctly, like you do a couple plays, you're like, oh, they're in zone. Oh, they're in cover 3.
Yep.
Then you start to gain knowledge.
Audible,
and you're like, oh,
boom.
I know what I can do to attack a cover 3 now. Because if they're doing cover 3, then I can actually have a post, and he should be open in that zone, and I could deliver the ball there. And then you'd have to pay attention though, because they would change their defensive style, and you'd be like, okay, well, that's not working, so I got to change what I'm doing now. It kind of made you more of a student of the game, and able to kind of like. Then you're starting to learn how to pick apart certain defenses, what works, what doesn't work, and you know, what I mean, sometimes running didn't work based on the defense. I mean, that's when they also had the 46 defense, the Buddy Ryan defense, where like you have 4 down linemen, 6 linebackers right in your face. And you're like, oh, geez. No, I can't run. I got to throw the ball. So it made you kind of think about the game more often, and in turn was teaching you the X's and O's aspect of it.
Right. And during this period too, not just this game, but you noticed more of the plays more elaborate. Before you always had your gauge
very
8s
simple
or whatever,
right.
and your 4-3 defense, your 3-4s, but now it's 4-3 with 2 in the box here, 2 linebackers up here, there, and these guys here, more on the line here, and they're different packages, so you could scroll through which ones.
Right.
And I forgot to mention about some of the other ones. I probably should have. Again, the advanced time clock, coaching, the coach's suggestions. It made it easier for people to go quick and say, yeah, whatever the coach says, that one looks good. Bang.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and just roll through it instead of scrolling through all of the plays.
And then
they started to get the playbooks.
How many times did you get delay of game when you started doing that?
Yep.
Like you scrolled through the games. I'm trying to find my play. I'm trying to find my play. Oh, geez, 6 seconds left. I'm almost there. No, I just pressed the button. It's too late. You know what I mean? You get a penalty. So you could burn through timeouts that way. I mean, and sometimes, unfortunately, you just didn't see it coming.
Absolutely. And then moving on to 2019 here, Madden 19, you got Antonio Brown again. He was a star here on that Pittsburgh Steelers team
star.
And everything. Yeah. And before crazy antics, this is when even it was kind of getting hidden behind closed doors.
I mean, I'll tell you this right now. I've said this to my dad before, and I'm like, how the hell did the Pittsburgh Steelers keep everything under wraps as quiet as they did for as long as they did?
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I'm astonished for seeing Antonio Brown the way he was after the Steelers to, like, I'd never envisioned him to be like that. If you, as a Steeler, you saw him, he was like one of the best receivers in the game. He was amazing every week, and you never heard anything like this from the locker room about him until it got to that breaking point between Tomlin, the organization, and AB. Yeah. When he started videotaping meetings in the locker room with Mike Tomlin, and that's kind of where it all blew up. And then you're like, well, we got to get rid of this guy. As soon as they did that, then you really started to see the real Antonio Brown. So I got to say, Pittsburgh Steelers, I have no idea how you kept it under wraps without anybody knowing, without anything being leaked. Like, kudos. Amazing job.
Yeah, and I think it even just got worse. You know, it might have been bad before a little bit that they did, but I think it just got progressively worse the more famous he got. And even he started to see bad publicity was still publicity. He don't care. And he still sees that now, and it's just crazy how much it's gotten, you know, with him all together, with everything, with the empire that he is or whatever and stuff. But as a player, he was great doing things and stuff, and it just damaged his career in the long run after everything. You know,
I so badly wanted to see what he could do after the Steelers, because that was the more compelling thing. As you always see a great player like Antonio Brown, if he leaves, like, oh, is he gonna fall off? Is he gonna still be the same guy? And I was just so curious, like, if he did just kind of keep it together and play 1 or 2 more years, however long he wanted to play for. But I was just so curious to see, could he be that successful somewhere else? And unfortunately, we'll never know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, wide receiver getting the cover again, was at his game, up his, best part of his game at that point, and
you're starting to notice too with Madden is now it's becoming more detailed. Like certain receivers with their route running, certain quarterbacks with their ability to be accurate, or they might have a really strong arm but not as accurate. Like that's when all this kind of started to come into play. Now it's even becoming even more detailed. Like you mentioned about plays and stuff. You got plays. Now you got certain players are better against other players.
Yeah.
And you started to see pros and cons that way.
Where they start measuring their release, things like that, even not just spin, juke, jump, or whatever, and things like that. You're
way more categories,
more different
now.
things. Catch in traffic, things like that. Spectacular catch.
Yep.
That was added into these games too around this era too. And now brings you up to here.
2020.
Patrick Mahomes, 2020, right here, Madden 20, jumped on the scene here too after sitting a full year behind Alex Smith.
Right.
Jumps in. Instant success again. Andy Reid again with this team. You start to see the Travis Kelce, all these other guys.
Yeah.
This team was young. They had a lot of great players on them.
Oh my God.
And this guy, just blew it up, and that's why he instantly popularity.
So tough.
The team and how they performed all together. It was an easy win for them to just say, "Hey, boom, Madden, there it is," and Superstar Edition. If you look at it again, too, there it is. Patrick Mahomes, Superstar. They're automatically labeling the superstar.
Yep.
He's doing things you talk about again, changing the game, running on the run, making throws. So again, you're talking about the attributes. They already kind of had them before, but they really upgraded the attributes here in changing the fact that throwing on the run, how accurate he is, things like that. Because they had a little bit before, but they really tried to really focus it on that type of stuff because Patrick Mahomes was doing that in games. No-look passes, shovel passes, boom, boom, boom. They wanted you to feel like you were Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and for Patrick Mahomes, like Super Bowl champion, Andy Reid, legendary coach, takes him under his wing, and they don't miss a beat. Like, this offense was so high-powered. It was very difficult to stop. Tyreek Hill was the Kansas City Chief then, and obviously Travis Kelce was younger too, so like it was just amazing. You think about the days when Jamal Charles was a Chief, and you're like, man, what if, like he was able to hang around and be a bigger part of the Chiefs for the future. Imagine that for a second. But Mahomes, this is when you started to notice for the first time. Now they're implementing superstar traits.
Yes, superstar traits
into Madden, and where you get the X factors and up like superpowers, I guess, for football, if you will. And Mahomes, cannon for an arm. This is the game where like you could take Mahomes and what did he do the best? Throw it deep. Like I'm talking 70-yard deep pass to Hill. And it made the game. It was almost like cheating.
It was the cheat code.
It was ridiculous.
Just Tyreek Hill. Boom.
As soon as he got red hot and unlocked that aspect, and you had Hill's speed, and it's like, okay, we're done.
Just
like
bomb it.
he just drop back. As long as he had time, just drop back. Wait. Okay, now, boom, and just launch it. And of course, no defense is going to play that deep. Yeah. Hills was right there all the time. So it was like the first time where you could actually cheat with these superpowers.
Yeah, the superpowers, I think, was dumb. I think they were trying to because it's almost like what the NFL does, try to touch base with a different type of people that maybe wouldn't have played the game before. Mm-hmm. Again, they're trying to make it like the game that people that love football, but they're like, how are we going to appeal to other players that want to, especially the gaming community? How are we going to appeal to other people? Hey, how about if you do a certain amount of tasks that this person can do, it unlocks this X factor, and then you can do that, and it's like, boom, now you're getting your bonus points with this, I mean?
Right. And it was only for superstars.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you could unlock a power for an average offensive lineman or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was only the big time dudes.
At first, and then they started to add it to a couple of different other people. It has made it a little more broader, but still not like every average Joe. So, and Excuse me again. He was MVP again. A lot of big talk about it. Patrick Mahomes. So you're seeing the young quarterbacks too get face of the franchise, face of the NFL. So Madden's doing the same thing.
You're seeing
that's what they've been doing
right.
with this last couple of years here. And there goes Lamar Jackson again. MVP of the league, changed the game a little more too, because again, much like we saw with Michael Vick, you're running around a lot. A lot of guys have to play him totally different than any type of quarterback because, dude, is this guy going to take off on us? And even if we try and read him, he's going to do some crazy moves and get by 5 to 6 of us anyways.
Yeah.
So one of us has got to get him, you know what I mean? And it was a different thing that you could do in the game and things like that. And the way they put his traits out there, though, again, kind of broke the game again. If you were Lamar Jackson, you were unstoppable.
Yeah, and you were better than the real Lamar.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson, he's got a cannon for an arm. He can throw short, intermediate, what have you. But the deep ball wasn't there. It was kind of similar to Vic, but a little bit different. But I will say this: Lamar Jackson has gotten way better than what he was when he first entered the league, and he has improved his passing ability. But in this game, in Madden 21, I mean, just like you mentioned before, Mahomes, face of Madden. Now Lamar, a lot of younger guys starting to come up, passing the torch, so to speak, for Madden.
Yep.
They're starting to kind of slide away from the older vets. You know what I mean? And now let's start anew. Let's get younger, better, more impactful to the younger generation. Lamar Jackson, like you said, broke the game. His attribute was shift. His shiftiness was crazy. When you unlock that and you're running with him, it was almost impossible to tackle him. It didn't matter what player you were running against. You do it, and it was such a quick movement to the side that the guy would be left in the dust, and you're still running. It made the game to the point where, all I want to do is use Lamar Jackson because nobody can stop me. As soon as I unlock his uncanny ability, it's over for everybody. Opened the game right up, and just like you said, Madden 21, this is a thing, people are complaining.
Yeah.
People are complaining about the game. Some traditionalists are really complaining because this is stupid. How would these guys have powers? They unlock all of a sudden, they're like gods on the football field.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Yeah.
Madden is about football. I get it. If you want to have a guy who's really fast and quick, then make him that way. But don't give him this superpower that he unlocks, and now it's like almost impossible to tackle. So
right, and then even the actions that the players do, like you go to tackle them even too, like you could be on them, but then all of a sudden they make your guy like break his ankle somehow.
There was an animation.
The animations got really funky around this time too,
and they were bad too because animations would be the worst at critical points.
Yeah.
You got to stop this offense from getting a first down. And an animation would take over to make a diving catch or something.
Yeah.
It's nothing you can do about it. It's as soon as the animation clicks in, it's going to do whatever it wants to do.
Yep. And in this era, too, you see a lot more of those crazier glitches where the ball gets hit, but it goes completely sideways over here. And the guy catches it somehow and still runs it all the way. Like, what?
The biggest
What happened
problem,
there?
I feel like the biggest problem in some of the newer games was that your screen would freeze. There was times, when, especially if you played online, your screen would freeze at times, not for the other player, but sometimes your screen would freeze and you'd be like, now I got to quit the game. And when you quit the game, you get a loss.
They give you a loss, and they change
and then it would happen in your campaign, your season, and you'd be playing, and all of a sudden it would freeze. And it's what the heck? What? I can't go back. I can't reset. I can't back out. I can't do anything. I got to shut the whole console down.
Yep.
It was crazy. So some of those glitches came into play, even with the newer games, that kind of interfered a little bit.
Yep. And just to bring it up, because again, just in passing, as we're talking about the games, it's things about the games that I've forgotten, but as we're talking, maybe 10 years before that, well, I want to say that. I'd say around 2014, 15, 16, around there is when they really started adding to the passing game too. It wasn't just right bumper, X, B, LB, whatever.
Right.
It was tap it for a lob. It was left
Hold
trigger and this for a lower aimed one. So really you could target where you wanted to put the pass, which is better than just that cone they try to do.
Right.
It was more like and also when in growing with some of those versions, they had, remember when it had turned an icon turned green and it was red maybe at one point because that means the receiver wasn't looking yet, so you had to wait for him to turn red to green. You're like, oh, now he's ready, and then you throw it. I think that was even the same year that McNabb one was. It was dumb, but the touch and everything still holds true today with that and everything, and how hard you push the button if you tap it or you bang it.
And also, and also the other aspect is like when you hold it down for a bullet pass. You know, I was known as King Bullet. Because I love the bullet pass, no matter what the aspect was. I just like to get it there. And also defensively. Yeah. Defensively, you started to become more apt to knocking balls down. You tap A to try to knock the ball away. Y to try to catch the ball to jump up with the receiver. And the receivers now were jumping and catching it. And then toe tapping became more of an involved thing. So if you threw the ball close to the sideline, now the animation takes over and will either stop and keep their toes in and catch it and fall out of bounds, or they would like kind of toe tap while they catch it and go out. So that was another advancement in the game as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And now this is when it started to get crazy too with you remember the talks they were like, oh, the next Madden's going to have 2 goats on it. I'm like, really? Why would they have 2 goats?
They hinted that. Yeah.
And I'm like, no way they're going to do Patrick Mahomes again or Tom Brady again with somebody. Right? I'm like, but what is he going to be with another goat? And the fact, again, and this is how much media loves it, but Madden is bought all in on all this stuff too, that now you got Tom Brady, but you also are now putting in, Patrick Mahomes here as a GOAT. But now when they call this here, they call it the MVP edition, which that's a better thing to say for a Patrick Mahomes with a Tom Brady.
That's right.
Because again, you're already trying to label this guy as the greatest of all time, part 2. You know what I mean? Yep. But he's got a lot of career to go, and he's
young.
Done well.
He's very young.
But we've seen things, and some guys' careers cut short, or just whatever, and things like that.
And here's the thing:
you don't know, and he's still learning even too. He had such a great hot start and doing well, but some of the things that made him good also were very. They're bad, Some
and
of
has turned the ball over because of it,
which we've seen in previous or just recent seasons.
But and that's the other thing too is about Mahomes is that he's still learning, just like you mentioned. But also, he's got a very long career left, and he's already accomplished so much already early on. 2-time Super Bowl champion, and he's still in his mid-20s. That's insane. That doesn't happen. But here's the other thing that he's going to have to try to overcome, and I feel like this is going to be a bigger hurdle for him. Is when there is no more Travis Kelce, when there is no more Tyreek Hill now, but you noticed how that offense had to change. He had to adapt because of it. Is now he's spreading the ball out to a lot more different receivers now, but over time you're not going to have Kelce anymore to rely on either. You're not going to have other players like Pacheco's nice right now because he's super young. He's going to probably grow with him, but going forward, you're going to miss out on some of these vets that have been around since you've entered the league. They're going to be gone. You've already noticed Frank Clark moved on the defensive side. Tyreek Hill got traded. Kelce he's not young anymore, so I don't know how much longer he's going to play, but I don't think it's going to be the rest of his contract.
Yeah.
And when he goes, now what happens? Because now you don't have the security blanket that you once had. And even if you were to draft high a tight end or something, it's not a given you're going to get another stellar player like that. So that to me, for Mahomes going forward, is to grow and keep growing as a quarterback and to be able to keep evolving his game around the personnel that he has.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when that came out, that's the first thing that hit me, I guess, with that whole thing. And complaints, like you said.
I still hate
of the game.
Yes.
Everybody comes out and they're like, oh, we made some changes. It's like,
no, you didn't.
This looks like the same exact game and
There's
the same exact
changes.
glitches that they don't do. You know what I mean? In animations, again, and like, why does my guy stop when he does this or whatever? Why is he still coming back to the ball when he does it? You know what I mean?
Too, is there's an advancement that I would like to see because now that they've kind of upgraded and evolved this game to the point where like now they're utilizing AI changes on the fly type of thing
too. Yeah.
But if you're going to, I want to see the receivers have a little bit more of a thought, like to break off their route.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being rushed out of the pocket, now the receiver's going to run back to me. Or take off if it's a hitch. Now just take off deep and maybe I can hit him.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the next advancement that I feel like a lot of people would like to see.
Yeah.
Because usually your receivers don't do anything different. They run the route that they're asked to run, and then I'm being flushed out. They're still going to run.
Like if they were to run a streak, they're going to still keep the streak going right to the end zone.
They're just going to keep running. They're not going to come back when I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Or when they finish a drag or cross route, they're going to get to the other sideline and then just stop and look at me. Like, come back to me. Help me out. And you see that a little bit, like them kind of come back to you, but it doesn't happen enough. It doesn't. It's not, at that level. So that's something that I would like to see on offense, and defense too. Like if the corner notices the receiver running back towards the quarterback, run with them. Like it's supposed to be, give and take all the time.
Yeah, and I think even with the difficulties, and again, I'm talking about the last 5 or 6, maybe even 2. It seems like when you go in up the difficulty, it doesn't make the other teams really harder to beat. They don't like kind of stuff you or like read the play and kind of like tackle you a little better or tougher coverage. It just seems like, boom, my guy just fumbled quick. It seems like it's turnovers that cause it all. It's like all of a sudden just things that happen. Like, dude, why did my guy do that?
Yeah, it didn't make
why
any
my guy
sense.
all of a sudden dropping a wide open one? Like, what the hell? And why is my pass all of a sudden way out here? I'm like, what? It's all of a sudden they make your team worse. Not really make the other team better. They make your play worse without you even you're doing the normal thing you would have done.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden now you're turning it over more. And like, why would that doesn't make the difficulty harder. It does make it harder for to come back from, but that doesn't show that it's tougher competition. So that's what I think the changing of the I
definitely see that.
Should be.
I definitely see it, and you see penalties increase.
Yeah.
Like now you're down, like it's 3rd and 15 now instead of 3rd and 7. It's like, what just happened? Why did my guy's false starting for no reason? Like we just got up to the line, he jumped. Like, what happened there? Or your receiver moves, and it's like, or like you mentioned, like your receiver's wide open. You're like, oh, sweet, throw it right over there, and he just bobbles it and drops it, and it's like, you don't drop those.
Yeah.
Nobody drops those.
drops those.
You know what I mean? So it's like that, and I could also see on the other side too is like the defense sometimes is a little bit better. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes there is that difficulty where you're like, dude, nobody is open.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I get it. It does happen from time to time in real life where like the defense plays such good defense. There really isn't anybody open. You either got to run it or you got to throw it away or something. But like sometimes it's just like it's almost too much. Yeah. It's almost like they're going out of their way to make it
put you in such a hole
that like you can't get back out. And it's like before you know it, you're down 2 touchdowns and you're like, all right, well, I got halftime. I got halftime. I'll come back after halftime, and it still just gets worse and worse and worse, and it just ends the game. It doesn't make it competitive. It makes it almost unbeatable. Like, and there obviously there's professional Madden players out there that even if they put it on the hardest setting, they can destroy it. Like it's still. But for the average player, for guys like just want to have fun or have a little bit of competitive edge, but still, do their thing. I feel like that it trumps all like the average type players.
Absolutely. So then that brings us to the last one before we don't know what the Josh Allen one is going to look like.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We know what it's going on.
And then here we go. We got Madden 23, and this came out right after his passing and stuff like that to really just encapsulate everything that this game has been. You know what I mean? Since its start. And what an icon he's been for the NFL and for football, and getting people that probably wouldn't even been interested in football into football by playing this game and then watching it and finding a team and whatnot. And it just honors him all the way through everything, and I think I haven't played it yet, but I'm sure, they did their best at least to honor him, and that's cool about it. And I'm sure it just still has its glitches that things that people don't like. But I haven't played this one yet. But it is cool at least when we're talking about cover art again. What they've done with it with the multiple covers and stuff. I think it was really good how they encapsulated them.
Yeah, Madden 23. It's obviously it's more advanced than you can ever imagine, but there's still a lot of issues. And I feel like this is kind of like an ongoing trend since 2020. I feel like everybody has been waiting for them to kind of upgrade the game, make it better, improve it somehow. And there is improvements you could make, but you just don't notice it. It doesn't happen. And it's going into 2023 now where you're playing 23 and it's like, dude, it's the same game from 3 years ago. There's really not a whole lot of difference. Like, okay, yeah, you have your Madden trading cards and you can have your online team that way. And then there's also like a fun little with those players that you unlock. It's like a fun little like games that you can play with your all-star roster type of deal against either other opponents or what have you. But all in all, it's like the game hasn't progressed as much as you would like it to at this point in 23.
Yeah.
23, obviously the graphics are cool. You definitely can tell who's who. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All that kind of
The graphics definitely gotten better.
But there are times, and like just like you mentioned, like one of the biggest criticisms you could give it is that when you make it difficult, it's not more difficult. It's penalties happen a lot more often. Your guy fumbles and turns the ball over. Your quarterback throws an interception for no reason at all. Like, why did he underthrow the ball and now it goes right to the safety? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So, like, there's different things now. It's like, okay, well, where is the improvements that a lot of people were hoping to get? A lot of people were hoping to get in 22. Like, okay, this is the year where they're going to make some kind of an improvement and it's going to be better. And didn't happen. Now we're in 23. Still the same kind of game. There's really no big improvement or adjustment that they made that I noticed.
Yep. They know that people still don't like the franchise mode and they haven't done anything with it.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
as far as I know.
Well, here's the other thing too, is like another criticism is you can't play online together. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people would like to do that. You can play online together if you're playing against other people
online. Yeah.
But you can't start a season and play on the same team.
Yep.
Like you used to.
You used to be able to.
You know?
Yeah, you used to be able to select a guy. Like one was a linebacker and one was that somebody had to be the play caller.
A position,
every time
like, okay, what do you want to do? I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then you play against the computer. And
that was back in 2019, I think.
It was fun that way.
Or somewhere, not 19, not 2011.
But they haven't brought it back yet.
2011 had it with the Drew Brees game.
I feel like that's something that should be brought back. I feel like a lot of people would play it too, because how much does it suck if you have a friend over or you guys plan on doing something online or whatever and it can't happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to start a season and play and game it up with my boy and play some football, or girl or whatever, but can't do it. So, I mean, that's a little disappointing. 23 is still the same thing. They did do there is a really nice intro to it in memory of Madden. You also, when you first start your trading card pack team, you get John Madden as a defensive lineman, which is pretty dope.
Pretty neat.
It's pretty cool. He's, so there's some cool features to it because of Madden, in tribute of Madden, but still, like, nowhere near the advancements as you would like to see.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe EA Sports, like maybe 24 will be the year that you.
We'll see if they do again when we know the clock's ticking, and then
we got Josh Allen on the cover now.
Yeah. So
24
again, quarterback.
So
they're going to do something with the
Bills fans
superstar arm.
How concerned are you for next season?
Yeah. Will the curse come bring it back? And I know Bills fans will probably be the ones that bring it up.
Yep.
It's like that. I mean, there it is. You ruined it.
That's right.
Because again, when people are looking at the Bills right now, they're on a meter right now. You got to win now. You know what I mean?
I mean,
they're still window.
They're not
will be getting small unless they can just retool quick.
They're not.
I think with the people that they have on the roster right now.
No, I think they're good.
Keeping them together.
I think they're good. They've done a good job of extensions, and they have a really good nucleus. A lot of good players. They re-signed guys that they needed to re-sign. I don't think they're in a tight window like the Rams were.
Oh yeah,
like they're not in any way,
like
shape, or form like in a hurry. Where like, oh, you have to win this year, or you have to win next year. Like, they've done a very good job as an organization. I have a lot of trust in that team and going forward. Like they've always seemed to do a really good job in the draft. They've done a good job in the offseason, and I think it's going to continue. I'm not really worried about it. The biggest thing is keep Josh Allen healthy, keep Stephon Diggs healthy, keep your big-time players healthy as much as you can, and keep doing what you're doing. They're right there on the brink. You're right. They're right there. They're on the cusp of it. They have the team to go to the Super Bowl. They have the team to even win the Super Bowl. But again,
it's a tough road once playoff time comes, because you have good teams in the AFC.
It's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's not easy at all. So they're going to get another chance this upcoming season. We'll see how well they can do. Josh Allen, I hope you stay healthy. I hope you do well. And we will find out, Bills Mafia, what the Bills have in store for us.
Absolutely. That's our show for tonight. I mean, it was a long one.
It was a good one.
We got really into that Madden, though, but I knew that would be a cool topic to talk about because we're reminiscent and things. But
listen, if you lasted this long, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you are just kind of joining us, welcome aboard. Mm-hmm. If you could do us a huge favor, help us grow our algorithm over at YouTube. Help us grow that football community over there. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube for us. That's one step. Next step, hit that notification bell, let you guys know when we go live. And as well, you can also follow us on Facebook if you wish, and anywhere you get your podcast. iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Drop a follow there and become a member, become a know-it-all. And you can also be interactive with us next Wednesday night. Tune in here, 8:30 p.m., once again, and drop a comment down below. Become a part of the show. Listen, we've had several guys come on tonight. Some OG know-it-alls, some new know-it-alls.
Some ones that we haven't seen in
dropping
a while.
Some questions, giving us something to talk about, or something you're just curious about, or even if you want us to talk about your team. We'll drop everything for you, baby. We're here for you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it was a good one. We loved it. Hopefully you guys watch it again and share the video. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.